shop. Oh, 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 oh. I'm married to a Funko Pop. Oh, oh, oh. Vitamins and minerals, they come to me through a tube. My whole life is spent watching on a tube. Whoa, oh, 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 Funko, oh, 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 oh. We got wedding coitus in a Subway shop. Oh, oh. We got wedding coitus in a Subway shop. Oh, oh, oh. We got wedding coitus in a Subway shop. Oh, 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 oh. I got married to a Funko Pop. Oh, oh, oh. Ooh. We got wedded cold joined in a Subway shop. Oh, oh, oh. Ooh, oh. I'm married to a Funko Pop. Oh, oh, oh. Ooh, oh, oh. Vitamins and minerals, they come to me through a tube. My whole life is spent watching on the tube. Whoa, oh, oh. Whoa, oh, 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 oh. Funko, oh, 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 oh. We got wedding coitus in a Subway shop. Oh, oh, oh. Ooh, oh, oh. We got wedding coitus in a Subway shop. Oh, oh, oh. Ooh. I'm married to a Funko Pop. Oh, we got wedded, we got joined in a Subway shop. Oh, oh, oh. Vitamins and minerals, they come to me through a tube. Vitamins and minerals, they come to me through this here tube. Oh, oh, oh. Funko, oh, 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 oh. Funko. Got married to my Funko Pop. Oh, we got wedded, we got joined in a Subway shop. Whoa, oh.
Oh, oh.
Funko Pop. Ooh, we got wedded. Come join in a Subway shop. Ooh, oh, oh. I'm married to a Funko Pop. Ooh, we got joy, Curtis in the Subway shop. Ooh. Vitamins and biscuits and minerals, they come with me through a tube. My whole is spent watching on a tube. Ooh, whoa, oh, oh, oh. I'm married to my Funko Pop. Ooh, we got wedded. We got joined in a Subway shop. Whoa. Vitamins and minerals, they come to me through a tube. Vitamins and minerals, they come to me through this here tube. Whoa. Funko. Pop.
Systems, the company store, the paradigm of absolute control. And that's why we're just out here
What's
doing
up?
things, pointing out that we're meant to be in nature and be natural.
Today is, of course, a celebratory day. We are very happy, very thankful. We had a great conference. If you are curious, my talk from the Icon Conference is loaded up here on my Rockfin. I did an hour-long defense of the biblical case for iconography and iconographic theology. We're also blessed because today is the new all-time high for BTC, baby. And every couple hours, we're logging in a new all-time high. You know, I've been talking about BTC since 2017. And then for the last 4+ years of hosting the 4th hour of Lord Voldemort, I promoted BTC and talked about how I thought it was the future of money. And here we are. We are at the stage where pretty close to Plan B's stock to flow model. We're on track for very soon 100K Bitcoin. I remember not too long ago, it seems like not too long ago, 2017, and there were a few people, Max Kaiser, Andreas Antonopoulos, a couple others, who were saying that Bitcoin would eventually go to 100,000 and then eventually 1 million. And at that time in 2016, 17, when people were first saying this, it just seemed so crazy, so outlandish. The attitude was that that's still nerd money. It's still something akin to Pokemon. It's internet pogs. This kind of stuff. And I mean, it even began being doled out through some kind of Pokemon, I don't know, some kind of nerd, some kind of stank-ass nerd website where, you know, basically butts are stanking. Through the forum and message board forums, you can smell the unkempt booty wafting off of the human Funko Pops at that time. Are those people zillionaires? There ought to be some zillionaire stank-ass nerds from that early period. But, of course, no one knew at that time what this would really be, what it would really do. It was kind of just a seen as a passing fad, a sort of a Furby, sort of again, a Pog, a Pokemon, as they say. Does anyone here know about Pokemons? Pocket monsters, there are some call them. Pocket monsters. Well, I've got a lot of fun videos too we're going to look at today, not just about BTC. We're going to have our reality report, our reality check, because We can't get lost in the hype of Badonkadonk, Donald Badonkadonk. We can't get lost in the frenzy of MAGA trad wife chicks on Twitter who are suddenly everywhere. Who are all these women? I'm MAGA now. Look at my boobies. I'm MAGA. It's like, who the hell are you? Where did you come from? You just literally popped up to try to get followers, and all of the idiots follow them still. I don't know how they're doing it. I don't know what secrets they have, but it's working. But this always happens, right? Anytime there's some sort of election thing and there's a lot of hype and publicity, suddenly, I was always MAGA. I was always a MAGA trad chick. Look at my boobs. Look at my traditional boobs. Look at my trad boobs. I'm a mom, by the way. I'm talking Furby level. Furby. That's what I'm talking about. Y'all remember this? Y'all remember Furbies? Now we got a Furby Pope. We had a Funko Pope. We got a damn Furby Pope now. The end times are upon us. You didn't think it could happen. Have you not learned that everything you thought couldn't happen not only could happen, but is happening? We manifesting, dog. Whatever you think about, you manifesting it, dog. Yo, I just manifested a Furby Pope. I'm about to get a 3,000 Pog indulgence from the Furby Pope. Oh, it don't stop there, bro. I got more. You remember our buddy Organic Like Us? Remember him? Well, there's a new hood healer on the block. Because I'm a hood healer. I keep the sage by the pound. Yoga bitches steady rocking. Y'all know how it sound. I'm a hood healer. Let's check in on our new hood healer. We got our new hood healer, dog. What's up, man? What he about to tell us about the Bermuda Triangle? The Barbuti Triangle. Hey, that other bro was talking about a Barbuti Triangle. Let's see what we got right now.
Going on. Some people, they end up coming back and they be losing track of time and all types of shit. But those pyramids,
Hold up, you come back, you start losing track of time. That might be because you can't tell time on one of them moving finger clock. I gotta have one of them Casios, you know. I gotta have one of them. I gotta have one of them written out numbers. You know what I'm saying?
We used to operate those pyramids, and we travel to different dimensions using those pyramids. And now we disconnected from our own shit.
Man, we got disconnected, man. It's like a, it's like it had done cut off. You know what I'm saying? The internet had done, the galactic internet had done cut off because, you know what I'm saying, our space brethren had not paid the bill. You know what I'm saying? We ain't sent in. Look, back in the day, the Anunnaki, right, they kept jacking up that Comcast bill. You know what I'm saying? Plus, it costs a lot of money to get you know what I'm saying, that Wi-Fi signal all throughout the pyramid, you know what I'm saying? So sometimes that shit used to get shut off, right? If you ain't paid a bill, they're gonna get shut off. It could have been cut off. They didn't have ABT back then.
But our shit knows that the planet got invaded.
Shit, no.
It didn't just forget that. Because
y'all just forget that. The planet got invaded right when the internet got cut off. When we ain't pay that bill, you know what I'm saying?
Our technology, bro, it's like words can't describe it, bro. But
shit. It's like, remember when Jordan Peterson had said, remember what he had said, I've got thoughts so deep, there's not words. Remember that? It's like that, you know.
Pyramid knows what the fuck going on. It's not.
Listen, man. Ain't nobody know what the fuck going on, but that pyramid know what the fuck going on. That's what's up. That's what's right there. That's what I'm saying. Shit. Listen. I know we got a bunch of y'all here got paid today. A bunch of y'all had got paid. Got that Bitcoin got paid. Big brother Bitcoin had paid y'all. Big brother Bitcoin made it rain right now. Satoshi over there, right? Making it rain on y'all. Where's the love at? Ain't nobody sent a super chat. Super cheap, super fake. I'm super fake. Where's my super chat, dog? Y'all got to lay down that support. Y'all is the pay piggies. Let me remind y'all how this work. I'm the paid pimp. Y'all the paid piggy. Y'all make it rain on me. I make it biggie. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about. That's how it work around her. Hold up, though. Tell me the rest of this right here. I got to learn.
Not super. Like, crystals is more alive than what you think.
Shit. Crystals, I know a scripper named Crystal. She alive, too. Scripper. There's a scripper named Monique. There's a scripper named Crystal. All of them is alive. I can tell you that right now. But look, hey, this dude gets more. He gets more views than I do. I can't even come close to this dude's views. What the heck? I can't play more videos. Shit. We're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to come out of this ghetto mode I'm in. Where's y'all's love at? Did nobody make no money? Y'all a bunch of hard-headed goofballs. A bunch of knucklehead. Y'all a bunch of knucklehead. I'm in here since 2017 trying to tell y'all about some BTC. Every one of y'all would be out the hood right now if you had listened. If y'all had listened and not have been hard-headed. Bunch of knucklehead. Y'all would be out the hood right now. But y'all ain't listening because y'all so hard-headed. He can't be right. Bitcoin go to zero. My auntie Shanae done told me Bitcoin got a zero. Listen, support the channel right there. Because Satoshi just done cut the checks today, bro. Satoshi up there in Japan right now. Boom, boom, stamping out checks. Sending them out. Bitcoin EBT, baby. You everybody talking about a Bitcoin ETF. Nah, dude, I'm talking about a Bitcoin EBT, baby. Swipe my Bitcoin EBT. Swipe that EBT. I'm gonna do the whole show in ghetto mode, bro. By the way, what's that guy's name? I can get him back. See if we get some more of his clips. I hate the way freaking Instagram won't let me play freaking clips without logging into that dumbass thing. I don't want to log in. I want to just watch his clips, dude. Brother says, I am that I am. Peace to the planet Kai. To the planet Kai. What the hell is the planet Kai? Who y'all like better? Oh, here we go. YouTube. That's what I'm talking about. Let's go, baby. Y'all could link over to his Patreon if you want to. Yeah. Young Cavo. This brother learned that if he wants to get that record deal, you got to talk about the damn pyramids first, bro. All right, let's see. What y'all want to do first? Let's talk about We Was Kings first.
We was able to create massive pyramids and tap into these energy points and open up portals, bro.
Shit. You could tap into that my uncle Dontarius, he got a cable that he cut into it with. It's the same cable that he cut into that got the free cable off of the street lamp, you know what I'm saying? That same cable could be used to tap in to the pyramid energy, you know what I'm saying? That's the same kind of cable. You cut in there, cut it off, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes that cable be tucked off, sometimes you gotta pull it out, you know what I'm saying? That means a lot of different things to different people. Right now I'm talking about energy release, bro.
Open up massive portals in the sky.
Damn, bro, I'm talking about a whole Tucson, create a whole mega planet right now.
And the portals will be so fucking big, like you'll be looking at them like think of it like on some shit. Well, the pyramid already big as fuck.
I mean, the pyramid already is big as fuck, right? But hold up, what if there was a portal big enough for the pyramid to big as fuck? That's double fuck. That's fuck. That pyramid is big as fuck. You know what I'm saying?
So you know the portal that it opened is gonna be big as fuck. We used to be able to pull in spaceships and
shit. It was like Dune and shit. You know what I'm saying? It was like Dune with them portals. You know what I'm saying?
Different extraterrestrial races and everything. They used to come in and we used to open up the portal. Huge pyramids and stuff.
Huge pyramid. Big as a booty pyramid. You know what I'm saying? Opening up portal. Listen, anybody want to support the stream? Nobody want to support the stream? Nobody got paid from Sakoshi? Has Sakoshi cut y'all check yet? Hold on, let me check. Let me check right out. Let me check right out. Let's see right here what happened. Oh shit. Damn, bro. We just printed another ATH. Satoshi just done cut me another check right now. He over there in Japan right now. Oh, cut the check. We got to cut the new check. And he's cutting checks. Just chop. He's like Van Damme with the dim mock, except he's cutting checks. Where y'all at? We got one super chat from DC Woodwork. No, we got a couple. Okay, we got a couple. Two of y'all had enough sense, had enough damn sense to not be knuckleheads. Two of y'all was not knucklehead. The rest of y'all a bunch of damn knuckleheads. Well, let's get our thinking right. Let's ascend. How about we do some of damn ascensions?
Third eye. So basically, it was on some shit like the Pyramid of the Sun. We had to go and build that up, basically. So we built the Pyramid of the Sun up and stuff like that. Right after they blowed up a lot of our crystal structures.
And I'll tell you what, brothers and sisters, man, they all about pyramids. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I mean, that's the only damn architecture and the only damn shape in the damn universe, a pyramid. Try to talk, brother, about a sphere. Hell no. Try to talk about a trapezoid. Hell no. Pyramids is all it is. It's pyramids all the way down. Infinite pyramids. You know what I'm saying? That's the only shape my brothers and sisters know about. Yakub, shit, he might as well be shaped like a damn pyramid.
It was on some shit like
you got a
Pyramid
cone
of the Sun. We had to go and build that up, basically. So we built the Pyramid of the Sun up and stuff like that. Right after they blowed up a lot of our crystal structures. Right after they did that, boom, here come the Pyramid of the Sun. It's getting built right up, right after that. Basically, bro, they just kept beating us down. You know what I'm saying? How I always tell y'all, they kept beating us down until, you know.
You all that energy shit that come from a certain man, a certain brother named N Tesla. You could figure out what the N stand for. N Tesla. He was a brother. They try to take him from us. Try to say he was a creation of Yakub, a crackle. He was not. Anyway, what y'all think about young Kavo? Existence anciently. Where do you derive your existence? I derive it anciently. What else do we need to learn before we move on? Oh, I like this right here. Fuck thinking small, I want it all. Fuck thinking small, I want it all. That's a song right there.
Right now, but no, I ain't on no Adderall. No, I ain't on no Adderall. Fuck thinking small, I want it all. If you really my girl, it's one call. Stack it up like Eiffel.
Stack it up like pyramid. Got a base layer, and then we got 2, 3, 4, 5 layers. And then all the way up to 1 at the top. That's a pyramid. That's the only shape there is. Fuck a trapezoid. Fuck a kind of what's the one that has 1,000 sides? Killia gun. Fuck a damn Killia gun. I want 1,000,000 sides on my trapezoid. Right? That's what I'm talking about. Brothers over here creating new geometries. A damn trapezoid. I want it all on my trapezoid. That's like a 66-dimensional pyramid. That's what a trapezoid is. And when you walk inside a trapezon, they be playing them hype trap beats, baby. That's a trapezon. Baking up my own geometry shapes. Fuck, I want it all, raw. I want that trapezon money.
And this is where we find the source that God made to transcend the New World Order. And that's why they want to try to keep us out of it.
Trapezon, baby.
Angry. I've had enough of these people. They're a bunch of Christian murderers scum. They're a giant death factory keeping babies alive. They're selling their body parts. What more do you need to know about these people? I go out and face these scum. They literally crawl out from under rocks. They have green looking skin and they run around screaming, we love Satan, we wanna eat babies. I have them on video.
Hillary's in the creepy with sick stuff, man. She sleeps in the same room with a creepy weirdo woman whose mother was a hood over her head. Her head. Woman number one is ugly. Imagine how bad she smells, man. I'm told her and Obama just stink.
Obama and Hillary
Both smell like sulfur.
Literal vampire pot-bellied goblins hobbling round and after us. My spirit gets close to that evil and I feel it go.
We're such self-centered crap. We don't even notice hell itself rising up against us. Millions of poverty people of the very worst type. Man, I'm so pissed.
We're gonna stab your daughter at the mall.
Oh,
We're gonna stab your
Wife, your son.
We're gonna stab you with a butcher knife.
and then the police chief is gonna say, we love our Somalis, we love our Muslims. Oh, they're so sweet. Oh, they're so sweet. Good, sweet. Oh, never gets old, baby. What's up, everybody? Welcome. That 30 minutes was the intro. Oh, y'all just got put inside a trapezon, and y'all ain't never getting out, because you can't get outside of a trapezon. It's a geometric shape that basically just take all your money, baby. You just get stuck up in there taking all your bitcoins. You stuck in a trapezon, bruh. Sing Wonderwall. What the hell is that? What the hell is even that? Anyway. Well, today is not today. 2 days away from big shifts. So we're at the end of an era, as you guys know. Lord Voldemort gets auctioned off. Well, his company, InfoWars, auctioned off in a couple days. Hopefully the auction will lead to somebody with good intentions. I've enjoyed hosting the fourth hour for the last 4+ years. I'd say 4.5 years. A lot of amazing time, a lot of great interviews. As you guys know, some of the highlights of the fourth hour. We had a couple really good ones with Triple E. We had a couple really good ones with Jamie, my wife Jamie. We had Sam Hyde on. That was a huge interview. That one got a lot of views. We brought Nick on. My plan was to bring Charles on. Things ended up ending pretty quick. As you guys know, Lord Voldemort chose to take the fourth hour the last couple weeks as the timeline wore down to the auction. So I was not able to host the fourth hour the last couple of Fridays, but that's okay. I went out with a pretty good fourth hour. We talked about history of CIA coups, history of predilection interference. I did tell Lord Voldemort, we were texting the other day, and I said, hey, depending upon where things go, I'd love to be involved, still in the future of whatever manifests, right? We have to ask our brother over here, young Cavo, young Cray Cray, whatever his name was, young Cray Cray. That's going to be my Zoomer rap name. I'm going to rebrand. I'm going to be called Young Cray Cray. Anyway, we had Sam Shamoon on. That was a great show. We had Wecking Ball on. People have forgotten that one. That was a lot of fun. We had a good run, and that opened a lot of doors. That opened the door to Timcast, going on Timcast multiple times. It opened the door to the Tucker special, I think, going on with Scooter and Tucker's Eat the Bug special. I imagine there were some other big interviews that I might just be forgetting that wouldn't have happened, had we not been doing the fourth hour. I really had hoped to finish Esoteric Hollywood 3 before the fourth hour ended. But now keep in mind, it's not actually 100% certain that there won't be any more future fourth hours, right? Because it really just depends on what happens in 2 days. Now, we have some good friends that actually planned or were talking about putting in a bid. So perhaps some of our positive-minded friends will purchase the company. People are saying, hey, what about Rogan? That's always, I guess, a possibility. I don't have any say in that. I think that it was a good sign, that Tripoli shouted me out on Joe Rogan. That was a huge thing. So that would be great. It would be definitely a big boost. But I think it was Shane Gillis said something like, even if you do get on Rogan, you're not really insured of success from Rogan unless you do Rogan about 3 times. He says if you do Rogan 3+ times, he's like, that will take your career to completely the next level. So who knows? I'm definitely looking forward to the future. I also talked to a couple other possibilities for the future in terms of, now we will always be here doing what I'm doing, but as you guys know, I love to collab with people out there. I love to, the way that alternative media kind of works. It's kind of like music, bands, you kind of have to open for other people, until you kind of build up enough of an audience on your own. It's very similar to that. And so, we've grown a lot thanks to Lord V. I think Lord V definitely took us to the next level and opened up all those doors I mentioned. But, we still want to keep growing. We want to go to the next level. And so, I'm happy. I'm hoping to continue to work with somebody at that level, the next level, so to speak. So, we talked, there's some possibilities maybe with Scooter down the road. There's some possibilities, again, perhaps continuing with Lord Voldemort. And I talked to Candyman. There might be possibilities with the Candyman himself. Fingers crossed. We'll see what happens down the road. But I always love collabing with people. And we'll continue doing everything we do here, no matter what. And even if things just continue via YouTube and, doing what we do on X, I'm happy with that because, this is what I've always wanted to do. So I'm good. Everything's cool, but I always want to grow, always want to expand. Thank you guys for those super chats. You guys are finally kind of waking up out of your greedy slumbers, your miserly slumbers. I'm just kidding. Hades Undead. Hey, Jay, I've been holding Bitcoin for 5 years. It is the best investment I've ever made. I thank you for your content, and I love you in a non-homoerotic way. BTC will be at 100K very soon. You got it, Hades, and I'm glad to hear that you're a half of a decade BTC person now. Yeah, today is a great celebration day. Today is actually our single biggest crypto day by far. I mean, this is wild. We've been, in this stuff since 2017. I remember I was such an idiot in even earlier than that. I was such an idiot. I remember hearing about Bitcoin back in the 2011, 2012 days when Max Kaiser was on Alex. And,
Alex, got my Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the future. It's the end of the banking order, and it's the future.
I don't really understand what this is. What's a wallet? Nobody understood what a wallet was. And I've told this, everybody has some Bitcoin story where the guys that run the Austin-based podcast, the Crypto Show, I tried to remember the other night, I can't remember, in 2015, when I did my first public talk with 2015, the Secret Space Program Conference, and the crypto dudes I think they were there, or we met them at Brave New Books, and the guy was like, "Hey, just create a wallet right now, and I'll send you to Bitcoin." Bitcoin was like $100, and I was like, "I have no idea. What are you talking about, a wallet? I don't know. I don't understand." He's like, "Just download it, and I'll send it to you." And I'm like, "I don't know what that means." And yeah, literally, if I had just invested like 10 more minutes into, like, we would have had another, almost $200,000. But it's okay. 2017 actually was pretty early for most people, and so I'm thankful for that. And sticking to your guns, hodling has been the best maneuver for me. I did experiment with trading, getting into trading and all of that for many years too. And it's hard to know which one, because we had some successful trades over the years that were pretty good in crypto. But it's whether or not it would have been better to just hodl. It's hard to say. But hindsight's 2020. So for everybody, DC Woodworking $3. Thank you so much. MKG $10. I want to support your stream. Hey, thank you so much, MKG. I appreciate that. And so, but we started talking on live streams about BTC probably around 2019. I mean, I was already into it since 2017 and trying to stack it, but the thing was that I wasn't really comfortable talking about it on a live stream until about 2019, 2020. I remember right when we had the Coup crash. Remember when BTC went down to like really low, right around the time of Coup. This was about, did it even go down as low as like, maybe even like 3,000? Yeah. Maybe 5,000, somewhere in here. So this is around Coup, right? So the Coup crash was about down to 5,000. And a lot of people got upset and exited crypto at this point, because nobody really knew what to expect with the Coup, right? But I made a risky but smart choice at this point, where I thought something might happen. I would never do this again because it's way too risky, but I remember we were at like 10, and maybe around in here. I remember dumping, and then when it went down to 5, I bought back in. So I doubled the BTC back at that point in 2020. And then we saw this run up, right, during Coup. This was the period when everyone was basically living on the internet. Remember that during Coup? Alone together, hashtag alone together. And we saw such crazy rises, which were, of course, short-lived, right? We all knew this wasn't going to last, because it was just so much uncertainty. The Coup nonsense was going crazy. And then we did eventually crash back down to 16, right? Remember this is Coup is coming around the time of Coup coming to an end. And so down to, this was the low point of this phase, this cycle here. Back here it was 5,000. Here the low point was 16. And I remember talking to some people on Discord, and they were like, "Oh, I'm gonna buy back in when it gets back down to 10." I'm like, we'll never see 10K Bitcoin again, bro. Even at 16, I was like, you'll never see 10K ever. It's done. And we never did, and we never will. So it's not too late, because of course, this is the type of thing that I really do I think this is the future of money. There's not going to be any other government debt-based currency that could ever compete with this, because BTC is the hardest asset, and it is the opposite of debt-based inflationary currencies. So you're never going to see BTC that low again. Now, most likely, as we've said, when we get to the top of this cycle, which could be 100, it could be 150, it could be 200,000. Crazy scenario, it could be 300,000. The top, okay? That's the top. Doesn't mean it's going to stay at that. Just like back here, right, during Coup, we hit 64 or something as the peak, 69, 4, somewhere in there. And then right after that, we had the collapse. So likewise, when we hit our new all-time high, usually what happens is the drawback average will be the low, or excuse me, I should say the drawback will be the high of the last period. So if we go to 150, 200 and it crashes, which it will, there will be another crash after that. The crash era will be around probably the 60s. So in other words, the last crash era was 16, 17K, right? Which was the high of like the previous cycle. I remember when Bitcoin hit 20K, everybody was like, this is crazy, right? Like back in 2017, I think. Yeah. So 2017, the cycle top was 19K. And everybody was like, oh, everybody's saying, oh, we're going to be rich, we're going to be rich. But that was just the cycle top. We have crash, and then we go back down. We had a long period of about 3,000 or 4,000 BTC. And then we get the new cycle top. Explosions, blow off top at 64, and then crash back down to what? See that? Do you see that the low of this cycle is the peak of here? The peak's 19, the low is around 19, 20 for most of this time period, even up into about 30 throughout this period of 2023. Well, now we're in the next bull trend, next cycle, and if you don't know, Bitcoin, of course, what partly propels the cycles. It's called a 4-year cycle, and that has to do with the halving, and that's the amount of Bitcoin that's paid out to the miners. Every 4 years, it cuts in half, and what that does is it drives up the price of Bitcoin. That's one of the effects that it has, is that it drives up the price of Bitcoin, because the halving relates to the scarcity of Bitcoin. And so eventually there won't be any more Bitcoin paid out, but that's a long way away. Nevertheless, it is still extremely rare and extremely hard as an asset. It's the hardest asset. So hopefully you see why this is happening, what's going on. So, but again, nobody knows for sure in terms of what the peak will be. This is partly driven by Trump. It's partly driven by the ETFs, partly driven by the halving. What else? Microsoft beginning to discuss having Bitcoin on their balance sheets. Their shareholders are voting on this. Nation states in the last, so if you don't know, like the last couple of years, we have El Salvador now beginning to openly advocate for BTC in terms of nation state currency. We had Bhutan beginning to invest at a government level in Bitcoin. We have the discussion via Senator Loomis and others after the Bitcoin conference this year of Bitcoin being part of the U.S. Treasury Reserve asset structure, whatever they're planning to do. That's also obviously driving the price up. But for people that are wondering, my guess would be that if it follows the cycles like it has, and it seems to follow these cycles, if it follows the Plan B stock to flow model pretty well, we're probably not going to see $30,000 Bitcoin again. So when we hit the cycle top, whether it's 150, 200, 300, whatever, the next crash will be probably around the 60 to 80 level. So there you go. Banks are already now beginning to get into this. You see, we're at the stage where people are figuring it out. And so if you were in now or earlier, you were able to front run the institutions, which is very rare. Usually in traditional finance, the institutions always have the dibs. They get to front run all the normies and the idiots on the street. But this is such a revolutionary technology and a revolution via the net that you were able to front run the boomers if you were listening and paying attention. And the other thing that I've noticed that happens is that people overthink. When I first, no, Bitcoin is not the mark of the beast. It's the opposite of that. When I first heard about Bitcoin, my initial thoughts were overly conspiratorial. I thought, oh, this is, tracking and tracing surveillance. It's the, one world order, blah, 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 blah. And that was all my thought process from the first time of hearing about it, from Max Kaiser talking to Alex in 2012 to 2017. And I used to argue with my buddy who was into Bitcoin, who now isn't into Bitcoin. Which is odd, but at the time he was the one arguing about Bitcoin to me. So, but I remember watching these broadcasts. Let's see if we can find one. So here's Max 10 years ago predicting.
Well, since Tuesday, more than 30,000 Bitcoins have changed hands in China. That's 4 times the usual trade volume and compares with just 300 exchanged in the United States.
Right. Mark Karpeles is the John Corzine of the Bitcoin world. He made a terrible bet on Bitcoin. Had he been able to hold his position, it would have been very profitable for him. But like John Corzine and his position in Eurobonds, the timing was bad. He ended up bankrupting MF Global. He did eventually get a stay of execution from Goldman Sachs and his friends in Washington because they can print all the fiat money they want to cover all the crimes that are being committed. But Bitcoin cannot be printed to cover up the crimes. So like real market, free market capitalism, this guy's going to have to actually face the music.
Well, exactly. Everybody's saying, well, there should be regulation. But now you compare it to John Corzine, just like Mark Karpeles, they actually made really excellent, wicked, cool bets. They made sure bets. But they both dipped into client funds. They both dipped into client funds to cover their losses. Now, John Corzine, despite all of the regulation, despite everything that happened post-Enron, where CEOs are supposed to know what's going on with their books, he pleaded ignorance. He said, I'm just stupid. I didn't know that this was going on, and he got out of jail free. Well, people are saying Mark Karpeles should have known. He apparently never audited his books once, they say, in the last 3 years. So he's alleging he's as stupid as John Corzine.
Well, in free market capitalist economies, you have something called the price signal. And under John Corzine, the price percent from a high tells us that there's in fact something going on that needs to be looked at. And now it's being looked at, and the dead wood is being cleaned out of the Bitcoin economy. You know, people who say that Bitcoin is not regulated that's false. The Bitcoin is the most regulated currency in the world. It's called the Bitcoin protocol. That's the regulation. It disintermediates, and it gets rid of the need for the CFO or the Serious Fraud Office or the SEC or anyone else, FinRens, FinCEN. You don't need them because it's self-regulating in the truest sense of the word. It's like the equation E equals MC squared. There's nothing you can do to perfect it. It is what it is. It was discovered, and that's what it is. You don't need a regulator to come in and say we need to regulate E equals MC squared. Similarly, with the Bitcoin protocol, there's nothing any regulator can do to add or subtract from the fact of the protocol what it is. That's what it is.
And I remember listening regularly to Max Kaiser in 2011 at that time, because 2011, 2012, whenever it is, because he started 2011, he started talking early about Bitcoin, and I still didn't understand it. I was just like, what is this? I don't understand how this is going to be some kind of, you know, future currency. It still doesn't make sense to me. But I was watching these Kaiser reports live at the time. I would go and watch on RT all the Kaiser reports because I thought that, you know, Max seemed to be really good with economics when he was on Alex, because Kaiser was on, like, you know, basically every month back in 2010, 2011. And I would listen to this and I would be like, but what is this? I don't understand Bitcoin.
Bitcoin top 100 rich list from 3rd of June 2011. Here's a little video I made of the top 100. As you can see, it's they're all anonymous.
This is fantastic. This is the new Forbes fortune list, isn't it? These are the Bitcoin fortunes. And notice, yes, all numbers. It's pure anonymous. And this is the biggest story of this decade going forward, is the transition from the old way of doing business around the world to the Bitcoin way of doing business, which is purely anonymous. And this is the great achievement of the global insurrection against banker occupation. Bitcoin is the currency of the resistance.
There you go. And I mean, I don't know, but I'm guessing Max Kaiser is probably a billionaire now from this committed. Here he is on Lord Voldemort. Look at this. 2012, Lord Voldemort. I was probably listening to this at the time.
Well, I mean, I'll say something, I'll mention something. You're probably not going to like it, though, because it's very, very kind of subsurface type stuff. But, you know, I gotta say that I spent the last weekend attending the Bitcoin 2012 conference here in London. And on the surface, it doesn't sound good. But when you get into what Bitcoin is really all about, Alex, it really is the currency of the resistance. Basically, if we are entering into an environment of 360 degrees of surveillance, of us being surveyed, every click of the mouse, every web page review, every email, totally read.
Walking
totally
outside, we're being face scanned.
Right. If that's where we're headed, then Bitcoin, which is the value of Bitcoin, is entirely tied to its cryptological content. It's cryptology as a currency, and therefore it really could be the currency of resistance going forward. On the surface, it's hard to get there because you say, okay, it's a digital currency, and we just talked about how bad digital currencies are, and you know, it's a computer-driven currency, and we just talked about how bad that is. But once you get down into the surface a little bit, and you drill into what's really going on with Bitcoin, you find out that there's this thriving global community.
Well, I'll say this: there's a lot of globalist connected groups I won't mention that do not like the word Bitcoin. They ban it on these government front sites out there that we know are government.
Okay, well, I mean, that's a good sign, right? I mean, because the globalists hate Bitcoin because it's completely cryptologically, it's no cost transaction. You can move money around at zero cost. It's the currency itself has a quote like any other currency, so it's like $11.80 per Bitcoin. But that's not the main thing. The main thing is you can zip in and out of Bitcoin for almost zero.
Well, listen, we're
cost.
going to have to get you back on.
Monero is so much better than Bitcoin. Oh, Monero. Oh. Have you compared the value of Monero to Bitcoin? Like, what are you talking about? I know it's you know, privacy. I know. But you know, in terms of the trilemma, you have to sacrifice something, and so if you want to sacrifice certain things, you sacrifice certain things for other things. I was looking for a price comparison. That's too old. But no, I don't think if you compare the value of Monero to the value of Bitcoin over time, governments are not going to. You need for something to become as big as something, to become a giant global thing, which is what we expect, you're going to need it to have a level of institutional acceptance for it to take over. And no one is going, the Monero will not be accepted by the entire world. So many people live in these like idealized fantasy worlds. And it's the same with like the people who think that, I'm only going to support something that's completely libertarian NAP based as a crypto. And so since Bitcoin is now being bought by Michael Saylor and institutions and corporations, I no longer, but I mean, you'll never get to a global decentralized currency without that, without institutional purchasing and buying. There's no other roadmap to it. Do you think you're going to convince the world of NAP? This is like literally, libertarians literally think they're going to convince the world of like believing in libertarian NAP principles, and that's what will take. But you know what? That's, you know, whatever. I don't argue with people anymore about Bitcoin, because there's no point. I mean, if you're at the point still where you don't get it and you don't think that, and you're attached emotionally to some stupid shitcoin because you put a bunch of money into it and you're emotionally attached, you know, that's the price you pay. And so I don't argue with anyone who is not, or wouldn't listen to anyone. Here's another principle about economics and economic theory and all this. Everyone on the internet knows it all, don't they? They're know-it-alls about every coin and all about economics, and they know everything. How many of the people that know everything on the internet, how many of them do you think are actually wealthy? Very few. Probably none of them. And so why am I going to listen to a bunch of people who aren't? If you're a crypto wizard and you're not wealthy, I'm not listening to you. You shouldn't be worth listening to. Of course I invest in Bitcoin. I've been talking about it since 2017. Why would you invest in gold? I mean, like, we're not going to be conquistadors, dude. All of these boomers who are like obsessed with the gold, we're gonna get the gold, conquistador. That's not any good. I mean, we do this. We've done this multiple times, right? It's like, if I'd invested in gold, if I'd invested in gold since Bitcoin, I would have, I mean, you're talking about like 10,000x versus like 2 or 3x. I mean, are you serious? Like, what kind of investor are you? This is like retarded. You can never find the kind of chart you want, but it's just so funny. Like, when you start talking to people about this stuff, like they know everything. They know everything. And if you know everything, why aren't you rich? Why didn't you make bank on all the crypto that you know everything about? And you're over here shilling the stupidest shit coins ever. MKG, no, I'm sorry. Autobot Coffee, $10. I'm finally ignoring my anti-Bitcoin family advice. Bro, you should have been ignoring their advice the whole time. What are you talking about? Should I wait for a dip in the market or go in now? I can't tell you what to do, man. I mean, I don't know what to. I mean, if you understand inflation, if you understand the money printer, which will never go away. We will be talking about some of this because we're going to talk about Trump today, because you know, we've got these positive signs about Trump's talking about, you know, no capital gains, getting rid of the Fed, all this stuff, no IRS, getting rid of IRS for whatever. I mean, that's great to have it discussed, but can he really do that, right? I think they asked Jerome Powell this last week, can Trump remove you? And he's like, nope, nope, nope. So, I mean, from the vantage point of the entrenched bureaucracy, which we covered in a couple streams back, it doesn't really seem it's questionable whether Trump can do that. I mean, we know these people aren't all powerful, but their real, hold is via the money power. So it's good to see Trump talking about that, because one of the good things that Trump did do back 2016 and onward was to so often talk about the fake news that after many, many years, this seems to have actually broken, or at least contributed to, other things as well, right? Alternative media, internet, rise of internet, X, etc., Elon buying X, all of these things, but largely Trump 2016 on, helped to break the stranglehold of mainstream media. I would say that the mainstream media has pretty much lost. Don't you guys think? I mean, we're not 100% purity spiraling into the perfect free speech that we want. Probably, right? There's still problems and issues. A lot of the platforms are still, mega censorial. But we have broken the spell at a large level that mainstream media had over the minds of everybody through their propaganda, which was so low tier, but now it's just so transparent. And so now we're at the phase where the discussions can begin to be had about getting rid of things like the Fed and so forth, although that probably won't happen for a long time. Who knows, right? But maybe there is some reality to, I hope for the best, there's reality to this, all this stuff that Trump discusses, right? But remember, politics is quite often it's about compromise. I'm not calling everybody bad. I'm saying that just politics by necessity, what it is compromise. People compromising. And that's a bad thing ultimately, but that's just reality. So I can't tell you whether or not it's the time to, I mean, in the long term, Bitcoin will always be going up because it's competing against debt-based inflationary currencies, which will always be going down. When you have a fiat currency, it literally can only go down over the long term. There might be a period where in the short term it competes against some other fiat currency, the dollar versus the pound or whatever. But short of the dollar, even if it's backed by Bitcoin, it's still, the debt can never be repaid. Right? There are no other options. There's no other competitors. And gold is not feasible because gold is ancient tech that is completely implausible for the modern world. People want to be able to move large sums of money in an instant. And given what technological advances we have, it seems like that's something that should happen. And that's what Bitcoin provides, the ability to do that. And so why would we go back to conquistadors and all this kind of nonsense when we have a complete revolution, which is even more rare than gold? You understand? Bitcoin is more rare than gold. Gold can continually be mined. There can be more of it. You can have tungsten. You can have manipulation. You can't have that. You don't have that with Bitcoin. So it solves those problems. Tusami, $10. Keep up the good work, play. We was Kangs. Exactly. Melissa DeCourcy, $10. Here is for that BTC. Yeah, so now we got some of the people in the audience who did decide to hold. Thank you guys so much. By the way, if you want to support me via Bitcoin, you can do so right here. This is my Bitcoin wallet. And we had a couple people in the last few days throw in a little bit of chump change, which I appreciate. Thank you so much. Blood Moon, $50. Here is shekels for the Ong Sorcerer. Question is, getting tattoos against orthodoxy. I don't think under the era of grace that the tattoos are necessarily wrong. No, there is a history of this even in the Roman Empire. Christian soldiers, I think, would get tattoos. I personally am not a fan of tattoos, just my personal aesthetics and tastes, I'm not a fan of them. But I don't judge anyone. I don't think it's a big deal. It doesn't matter. Alexandra Union, $10. I do think people can go overboard with, like, you know, crazy demonic tattoos. Obviously, that was weird. But I don't think ultimately they're a big deal. $10. I've been hodling since 2021 because of you, Jay. How do I give you more than $10 in StreamYard? You can give any amount you want. I guess you figured that out. Thank you. This is better. Here's $50, Alexander Union. Thank you so much, Alexander. Appreciate that. I'm glad you're doing well. Glad that Bitcoin worked for you. Definitely worked for us. I just wish I'd listened to Max Kaiser and other people earlier than that. Thank you for the hodl discussions about Bitcoin since 2020. I've been hodling since 2021. Wow, that's great. Hang your head, Tom Dooley, $10. I got to cop that EBT BTC right now. About to check in to see. He's checking in to see if Satoshi's cutting checks for him right now. I'm trying to find shelter because Bitcoin tsunami about to flow and blow me away right now. Bless up for real. Exactly. Hang your head. Tom Dooley knows exactly what's going on. Mine hack, $5. Thank you so much. Mine hack. Now, so look, I can't guarantee that there'll be a crash to 60, but probably there will. But I can't. But I am not a registered financial advisor. But that's what you got to decide. If you're not familiar, everybody should be familiar with this. In terms of Bitcoin, it's called the stock to flow model that Plan B put together. And I think he periodically updates this. But let's see if this is probably the most recent one. So basically, this guy named Plan B, who's a big long-time Bitcoin guy, came up with this chart called Stock to Flow, and it basically factors in a bunch of different things, macro analysis and whatnot, and it charts the history of Bitcoin relative to these other markets and factors. Right? I don't understand all the math involved in this. I'm not a math nerd. I'm more of a philosophy right brain guy, not a math left brain guy. But the chart tells you basically that around, let's see where were we? This is around 2020. Okay, we've got Bitcoin averaging around, you know, $8,000 to $10,000 back in 2020. It starts popping off around this time period. And right around in here is 100K Bitcoin right here. And so, as you can see on the chart, sometimes it's a little under the stock to flow model, and sometimes it's a little bit over it. So, in the last couple of years, we've been a little bit under the 100K model, but we are right now about to touch the 100K. And then, as you can see, the expectation is that because it has followed the chart fairly closely, obviously it's not perfect. Sometimes it's a little bit under, sometimes it's a little bit over, or a lot over. Most likely, if stock to flow continues, you get anywhere in 2026 to 2028, $1 million Bitcoin. And as you can see, it roughly compounds and does a 10x, right? So 2010, to get to $1 Bitcoin, it took about a year. So from 2010 to 2011, we got $1 Bitcoin from zero, which I guess is kind of, but that's the first 10x, right? Well, I guess it'd be 100x from a penny, but we'll call it a 10x from a dime. And then we get, so let's see, how long does it take to get? So 2011, we get $1 Bitcoin for the first time. And then when do we get $100 Bitcoin? So it takes 2 years, and we get $100 Bitcoin. Yes, please. Thank you. And then we get $1,000 Bitcoin right around 2017. So there was a good bit of time. Well, I'll take that back. We almost hit $1,000 Bitcoin in 2013, but it took a long time to get more stable to where it was consistently 1,000, and that was 2016. So, you know, within a few years, we've done a 10x and a 10x. Okay. Then we're looking for another 10x to get to 10K Bitcoin. And that occurs 2017. So within another couple years, we then have a 10K range for a long time, all the way up until about 2020, even though we had some spikes above 10K. And then around 2020, we begin to have this new phase of like 50K, whatever, right? And we are now entering into the phase of approaching 100K Bitcoin. So as you can see, it's not perfect, but it's fairly close to the stock to flow model. And most likely in the next, in the next 5 years, most likely, it might take 6, it might take 8. We're talking $1 million Bitcoin. So everybody should be familiar with the stock to flow chart. If you're not, it's a very well-known, very famous Bitcoin chart. When the cycle top is in this cycle, we don't know. Most we're looking at probably, we think people are thinking middle of next year. Ivan is always saying taking profits in June, right? So May, June, July is probably the end of the cycle. And, we could see Bitcoin again anywhere from 100 to 300, anywhere in there. And no guarantees, but probably when we have after we hit our top, whether it's 200, 300, when we crash, it could crash all the way. The new crash will be 60,000. So you see that? There you go. All right, so let's move on from Bitcoin. Thank you guys for those super chats. Let's talk about what the system has planned. Now, we've seen some good signs from Trump initially. One good sign that everybody was immediately concerned about, will he stick these neocon goblins in there? Trump says no, Pompeo and Nikki Haley will not be part of the administration. So that's a good sign. Everybody was immediately worried that we would see these goons and goblins put back in. And thankfully, no, at least that's the signs right now. So those are positive signs. Now, again, we can't get all like elated and in our 2015 atheist euphoria. We can't put our fedoras on and have atheist euphoria yet, because as we know, when we covered the Conor McGregor, Cameron McGregor stream about what Trump can and can't do, we know there's limitations here. But again, this is really kind of beginning to turn the tide, not by expecting Trump to fix everything, but by interjecting the discourse that can lead to the change 10, 15 years down the road. That's what we're talking about. That's more realistic. So let's see what did Flynn say to Elijah
Flynn delivers
Schaefer.
a bone-chilling post-election warning. Could it really happen again? In conjunction with the GatewayPundit.com, General Michael Flynn joined Steve Bannon on Wednesday following President Trump's massive victory in the 2024 presidential election on Tuesday. Not only did President Trump win re-election, but Republicans also took the U.S. Senate and U.S. House of Representatives. On Wednesday morning, Steve Bannon invited General Michael Flynn on the War Room to discuss the election results and the important next steps for the president-elect Donald Trump. Now, in 2017, General Flynn, President Trump's former national security advisor, spoke with his old friend Steve Bannon, who was President Trump's chief strategist in 2017 when Trump entered the White House. Little did these men know that there was an elaborate plot to take down President Trump before he entered office. That plot was hatched by top members of the Obama regime, including Barack Obama himself. Obama has...
Now, Alex, Lord Voldemort was talking about this all throughout this time period. They really should have known this. I still don't understand why this was overlooked. But, this was that period when there was all that edgy Trump talk, right? And then it turned into, Drain the Swamp turned into putting all these people in the regime. And it was just a giant nightmare. And those are all the people, shocker, who launched all of the chaos to undermine everything that Trump talked about. And that was, of course, the Spygate, Russia, the spying on Trump, the Russia hoax, all of that. And Obama played a key role in that stay-behind unit office to direct a lot of that. But, of course, that wasn't run by Obama per se. That was run by people very, very high up and higher than Obama, with Clapper, Brennan, all the intelligence people.
The great distinction of being the first U.S. president to what? Actively spy on and attempt to bring down his successor. This is who Obama is. Barack surrounded himself with loyal and dishonorable partisans like FBI Director James Comey, CIA Director John Brennan, DNI James Clapper. Now, these men committed horrendous acts in their attempts to overthrow the democratically elected president. General Flynn on Wednesday warned Trump's inner circle to expect another assassination attempt before President Trump reaches the Oval Office in January. This was an incredible conversation. You can see the script there, but we actually have the video of it. Check this out. Their interaction was remarkable. Steve Bannon, of course, is not only an expert on strategy, but he's also an expert on basically predicting what the deep state's going to do next. Watch.
Talk to us about your tweet. Why did you send it out? What is your message? How does it tie into what we're seeing right now?
Yeah, number one, Steve, the enemy has a vote, right? On the battlefield, in warfare, you can never discount your opposition. And in this case, the enemy has a vote. So I did not see that Politico article, but what they're doing, we've seen this movie before. They are setting up essentially another scenario to basically stop Trump dead in his tracks as he tries to go back in and govern a second time. And one of the things that he's going to have to do, and, that's why I say, like, great victory last night. I mean, I'm hoarse because of all the talking and the podcast and all that stuff. But that was just, like I say, it's D-Day +1, folks. In order to achieve the victory that we need to achieve to get this country back on the rails, because we're still off the rails, is we have to fight through and understand what these people are going to do in the next 2.5 months. Trump ought to put maximum pressure on people like Speaker of the House Johnson, and the plan to go in on day one. And I ain't talking about, Steve, I remember your whiteboard where you had listed everything on there, the promises made, promises kept whiteboard, I call it. And this is beyond that. Day one, Trump takes the reins of government as the president of the United States. There has to be immediate action, right? Immediate action drills, we call them in the military. And some of those are going to have to be, and so these are things that are going to have to be planned and strategized between now and then. But these are things like going in and eliminating whole cloth people that are in senior executive positions, senior intelligence.
Now, this is precisely what we talked about in the Cameron McGregor video and in my longer analysis, which is that this entrenched bureaucracy would have to be just swiped away, probably thousands of people. Now, the crazy part, which surprises even me, and again, I'm not saying that this necessarily will happen. This is all very surprising. But you've got Elon saying that he wants to help Trump figure out how to wipe away this bureaucracy. I hope so. I never would have expected to see these kinds of discussions being had. What's ultimately going on, I'm not sure, but I definitely hope for the best. It can't be a bad thing to get rid of all of this entrenched deep state bureaucracy. Will they really do it? Well, so far the signs are good, but again, I think the key thing for us, like, if you don't have super high expectations from anybody in government, which is a lot of us, then anything that does happen that's good, you're going to feel really good about it. So that's one positive approach that you can have, is to just have zero expectations, and then when they do anything halfway decent, like just even discussing getting rid of the IRS and all this theft and just disgusting corruption, and as Lord Voldemort said, immediately immediate deportations, immediate busting up of these human TRAFFICKING gangs. Immediate, all of that would be number one. That would be wild. Now, will this really happen? That remains to be seen. Because I think we all know that politicians excel at yapping. They're yap masters. They will talk the greatest game you've ever heard. They're going to do it. They're going to fix it all. Remember back, I don't know, did you have this in high school? I don't know if you guys had this. But when I was in high school, class president was always just some stupid-ass cheerleader who promised all kinds of just stupid crap, right? We'll have chocolate milk in the drinking fountains, this kind of stuff, right? I mean, it wasn't really that. That's more like grade school. But maybe today with all the spurgs, chalky milk and chicken tendies at lunch would get you absolutely elected class president nowadays. Right? I'm running on that chalky milk chicken tendy platform, and that's going to get me elected. Hell, maybe that would get you the national election. Maybe I'll run next go round, right? Trump's done. I'm going to run the next go round on the chalky milk chicken tendy platform, and all of the zillion spurgs in the country will vote for me, baby. That's my new technique. I don't need Steve Bannon's tactical strategic expertise. I just know the MO of the Spurg Nation. Speaking of chalky milk, what about that chalk? There's no milk there. But what about that chalk? Well, look, all yo bros out there, you want to up your performance, you want to up your gym expertise, or your experience, I should say, in the gym, head on over to chalk.com, CHOQ.com. Use the promo code J44LIFE, that's JAY44LIFE, and you will get 44% off all those great chalk products, including the Performance Stack, which includes the Action 2.0 to boost those energy levels. It includes the Tomcat Elite, the Tomcat 100 to boost your testosterone, and that amazing Chad mode. I'm talking about the Chad mode, bro. Chad mode. Take over a small village and mug on your boss with Chad mode, bro. I'm talking about Vivek Ramaswamy. Y'all gonna hear from him in a minute. Anyway, let's get back to the warning of General Flynn.
Positions that what most people in America have no idea what's called a HQE, or highly qualified experts, that are people that are hired. And this administration is going to hire a bunch of people just like Obama did, stick them into key slots, and they're going to block and tackle, every single day. Those people have to be eliminated. I mean, taken out at the knees, dismissed, take their clearances away, take their badges away, and tell them, thank you for your service, you're done. And that has to happen literally on the Friday of Trump taking over. Never mind just starting the deportation campaign. That's going to take, it's going to take some time to get through all that. That's not going to happen over a 3-day weekend. That's going to take time to do the kinds of things that we need to do. So these are things that, like I said, Steve, we've seen this movie. You and I have been part of it. We've been victims of it, and we do not have to go through these scenes again. We can eliminate a lot of this nonsense by being prepared for what we know the enemy is going to do. And I right now talking to you, I do use that word enemy precisely, because had Trump lost last night, he'd be in prison. He'd be in prison on the 26th of November. His family would be destroyed. His business.
Look, and he honestly is telling the truth, right? Trump would have been destroyed. He would have been absolutely annihilated. There's no question about that. Now, I want to discuss the reality of the situation of what they're going to do. We have some predictions here, but I want to remind you this too. Make sure to take care of yourself.
All right, now that's a good sign. Next up, this went everywhere, mega viral, and as I understand, this is actually from 2 years ago. So it's good that this is going around, but will this actually come to fruition? So let's listen to this speech that was, I think, posted on Trump's wall or something in 2022. Let's see what we have here. Again, another good sign, but will we actually see this come to fruition?
Speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple, just like dominoes, one by one. They'll go down. That's why today I'm announcing my plan to shatter the left-wing censorship regime and to reclaim the right to free speech for all Americans. And reclaim is a very important word in this case because they've taken it away. In recent weeks, bombshell reports have confirmed that a sinister group of deep state bureaucrats, Silicon Valley tyrants, left-wing activists, and depraved corporate news media have been conspiring to manipulate and silence the American people. They have collaborated to suppress vital information on everything from elections to public health. The censorship cartel must be dismantled and destroyed, and it must happen immediately. And here's my plan. First, within hours of my inauguration, I will sign an executive order banning any federal department or agency from colluding with any organization, business, or person to censor, limit, categorize, or impede the lawful speech of American citizens. I will then ban federal money from being used to label domestic speech as mis- or disinformation. And I will begin the process of identifying and firing every federal bureaucrat who has engaged in domestic censorship, directly or indirectly, whether they are the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Health, Human Services, the FBI, the DOJ, no matter who they are. Second, I will order the Department of Justice to investigate all parties involved in the new online censorship regime, which is absolutely destructive and terrible, and to aggressively prosecute any and all crimes identified. These include possible violations of federal civil rights law, campaign finance laws, federal election law, securities law, and antitrust laws, the Hatch Act, and a host of other potential criminal, civil, regulatory, and constitutional offenses. To assist in these efforts, I am urging House Republicans to immediately send preservation letters, and we have to do this right now, to the Biden administration, the Biden campaign, and every Silicon Valley tech giant, ordering them not to destroy evidence of censorship. Third, upon my inauguration as president, I will ask Congress to send a bill to my desk revising Section 230 to get big online platforms out of censorship business. From now on, digital platforms should only qualify for immunity protection.
Yeah, you know, what's funny is that all the stuff that I'm hearing here is all the stuff that should have been done the first time around. You know, maybe there's some kind of inside politics that we don't know about as to why this wasn't done the first time around. But I guess we could be happy that it's at least being discussed. You know what I mean? Like, whether this will come to fruition, again, we don't know. But it's great that these things are being discussed, because remember, the shift back in the direction of sanity and tradition, it's not going to happen overnight or by, you know, some strong man coming in and doing it. The world's just not structured that way. The only way that we're going to turn a lot of this around, I think, is by beginning the discussions that are breaking through the matrix that's already there, and then expecting a gradual move back. And by gradual, I don't mean that it literally has to mirror the Fabian Socialist 100-year model that they've been doing. Maybe it's 10, 20, 30 years. You know, maybe it doesn't have to be 100 years like their plan. It can be sooner than that, but it's not going to be like 4 years, right? So Look, I'll say this. I mean, if Trump can do 1/4 of the things that he claims he wants to do, that will be good. I mean, that would be great. But let's see the rest of this.
Under Section 230, if they meet high standards of neutrality, transparency, fairness, and non-discrimination. We should require these platforms to increase their efforts to take down unlawful content such as child exploitation and promoting terrorism, while dramatically curtailing their power to arbitrarily restrict lawful speech. Fourth, we need to break up the entire toxic censorship industry that has arisen under the false guise of tackling so-called mis- and disinformation. The federal government should immediately stop funding all nonprofits and academic programs that support this authoritarian project. If any U.S. university is discovered to have engaged in censorship activities or election interferences in the past, such as flagging social media content for removal of blacklisting, those universities should lose federal research dollars and federal student loan support for a period of 5 years and maybe more. We should also enact new laws laying out clear criminal penalties for...
Well, we need to talk about the realm of academia itself essentially being defunded. Higher level academia in this country is one of the overlooked key sectors of complete and total mind control and brainwashing. People think about the media. They think about this, that. What do you mean I'm on a different channel? What does that mean? You're on a different channel right now. I'm not on my channel? What do you mean? Are we not streaming on my channel? What's going on? I'm confused. Looks like we are. Remember to keep it within the terms of service in the chat, please, you guys. I mean, pulling the university funding would be phenomenal. That'd be great, right? But really, the Department of Education, all these kind of like bureaucratic, just ossified, fossilized boomer legacy systems, they all need to go, because like Cameron McGregor said, this whole legacy gerontocracy system is itself the problem. And until the boomer control system is completely gone, which we are in the phase now of boomers shifting and conceding control to the Gen X, we're probably not going to see much change until the boomer gerontocracy is gone. And I mean legitimate real change, because we are still ruled and governed by a wicked boomer gerontocracy. They're still there. They're still in power. But they are beginning to lose power. I'm on CNN? You're joking. That would be funny. Does anybody even watch CNN? I don't know. Like, I probably have the same size audience as CNN does. I don't know.
Federal bureaucrats who partner with private entities to do an end run around the Constitution and deprive Americans of their First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendment rights. In other words, deprive them of their vote. And once you lose those elections, and once you lose your borders like we have, you no longer have a country. Furthermore, to confront the problems of major platforms being infiltrated by legions of former deep staters and intelligence officials, there should be a 7-year cooling off period before any employee of the FBI, CIA, NSA, DNI, DHS, or DOD is allowed to take a job at a company possessing vast quantities of U.S. user data. Fifth, the time has finally come for Congress to pass a digital Bill of Rights. This should include a right to digital due process. In other words, government officials should need a court order to take down online content, not send information requests such as the FBI was sending to Twitter. Furthermore, when users of big online platforms have their content or accounts removed throttled, shadow banned, or otherwise restricted, no matter what name they use. They should have the right to be informed that it's happening, the right to a specific explanation of the reason why, and the right to a timely appeal. In addition,
well, this all sounds good, but like, how is that going to be enforced? You know what I mean? By the way, can I be unshadow banned and have the normal growth of my channel and monetization back? I've been demonetized since 2018 because of one person saying a word in the background on a podcast in 2018. That's how ridiculous this is. And of course, as you guys know, one of the things that throttles your growth is if you are demonetized. And so, yeah, there we go. I don't know how any of this would actually be enforced, but this all sure does sound good. We can agree with that, right?
Users over the age of 18 should have the right to opt out of content moderation and curation entirely and receive an unmanipulated stream of information if they so choose. The fight for free...
But I mean, the algorithms have so been, like, you know, twisted, right? Like, how would we ever get back to that? I don't know how. I'm not a tech dork, so I don't know how that works, but this all sounds good. Guala Christ, $10. Jay, for us slow boys, can you give a reason why Trump versus Dems? I don't know what that means. Is Republican policy more moral? No, I don't think the party, as we traditionally think of it, is anything but just a less openly degenerate version of the Democrats. Why is political philosophy actually better, and why? I don't really understand the question. I mean, it's like you're asking me for a moral explanation as to why. I mean, I think that the Dem party is just openly wants to hurt children. I mean, if you don't see that as wicked, I don't know what to say. And so the other stuff is just not as wicked. And we're beginning to see, you know, good things being said, but that's really all we can expect at this stage is good things are being said. Does that mean good things are actually going to be done? Well, maybe. But I think we should also not have the attitude of being blackpilled and everything is bad. It just, people expect like quick returns, and it doesn't matter whether it's Bitcoin or whether it's you know, fighting evil for good, positive, virtuous things. You know, these are long battles. They're not battles that are won because one person comes in and you know, everybody has this like Neo Matrix idea, like, though I'm the one, I will fix everything. Nothing works that way. But you know, to have discussions at this level of what he's saying is great. Whether it can be done, I don't know. So it's just really, I'm not mad at you, Gual Chris, for the question. It's just that there's no question that I hate more than, what do you think about Trump? What do you think about blah, blah, blah? And it's just so tiresome and boring, and like, I don't know these people's motives. How do you expect me to answer that? Like, I don't have insight into anybody's motives. I don't know. But here's an interesting thing I wanted to play, which is Episcopalians having a demonic fashion show in the church. So if you don't think that the Episcopal Anglican branch theory nonsense is totally gone, well, here you go. I'm turning that down because it'll ding the copyright, but what is this? This is just totally cringe puppet shows. It's not a fashion show. Looks like a Halloween thing of like demons or something. Anyway, this is just super cringe. Everything that these libs that run and own everything that they think is aesthetics is just totally cringe. You know what I mean? But I don't know what. It doesn't look like a fashion show, but maybe it is. I don't know. Now this was interesting. Lord Voldemort for press secretary is everywhere, all over Twitter. This would be like the ultimate middle finger to the establishment. I have no idea if this is real or not. Maybe it's just trolling. Maybe it's a joke. But maybe it's a joke that will turn real. I mean, could you imagine? Again, this is, this info W's is being auctioned off in 2 days. If this goes away, what if Lord Voldemort, literally becomes press secretary? Wouldn't that be insane? We're in some sort of weird... Yeah, I'm starting to think CERN is real with, the alternate dimensions or something. I'm joking, but you know what I mean? Could you imagine Lord Voldemort as press secretary? That would be insane. We're going to get to this, a little more serious information in a little bit. I wanted to play this, which is a good reminder here. It was great to see Trump at the Bitcoin conference. I am not thinking that, I've been telling you guys forever that no, one person cannot fix the situation, cannot save us. But this is good stuff here.
Anymore anyway, because as you can see, the planet, it's very cool out here today, isn't it? Oh, they go crazy when I say, but it's not global warming, because at certain points it starts to cool a little bit, like now, but like this period, and they're getting killed with global, so they changed it. You know what the term is? Climate change. This way, if it gets warmer, it's fine. If it gets cooler, if it rains, if snow comes down in the middle of the summer, it's climate change, And we've spent trillions and trillions of dollars on things that, putting windmills all over these magnificent plains and fields and valleys and oceans. And then they had one whale in, I think, 50 years come up. And then last year, they had 18 of them wash ashore, die. And it's all a big hoax. We don't have a global warming problem. They don't.
And, I agree with that. So it's good to see that discussion happening. It is, obviously, it's not just a hoax, it's part of the Malthusian agenda. So next, let's look at the plan that Trump has laid out for, quote, dismantling the deep state. Let's see. This is where did it go? Here we go. This is an interesting one.
The deep state and we claim.
This is wild because this has 60 million views from a couple days ago on Twitter. So here is a more in-depth plan of dismantling. Let's see what he says here.
Our democracy from Washington, corruption once and for all, and corruption it is. First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively. Second, we will clean out all of the corrupt actors in our national security and intelligence apparatus, and there are plenty of them. The departments and agencies that have been weaponized will be completely overhauled so that faceless bureaucrats will never again be able to target and persecute conservatives, Christians, or the left's political enemies, which they're doing now at a level that nobody can believe even possible. Third, we will totally reform FISA courts, which are so corrupt that the judges seemingly do not care when they are lied to in warrant applications. So many judges have seen so many applications that they know were wrong, or at least they must have known. They do nothing about it. They're lied to. Fourth, to expose the hoaxes and abuses of power that have been tearing our country apart, we will establish a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to declassify and publish all documents on deep state spying, censorship, and corruption, and there are plenty of them. Fifth, we will launch a major crackdown on government leakers who collude with the fake news to deliberately...
Now, this might be why the Democrats were so terrified. Because presumably part of this, and I think Vance has many times said on podcasts and in interviews that he wants to see the Jeff Stein McCaffrey stuff released. I don't know whether that will actually ever happen, but it is interesting to see the vice president discussing that, and it sounds like part of this, presumably.
To weave false narratives and to subvert our government and our democracy. When possible, we will press criminal charges. Sixth, we will make every inspector...
This is, again, it's interesting because this is what everyone was wanting and expecting in the 2016 presidency, right? So again, the rhetoric and the verbiage is good, but I think we were all kind of wanting and expecting this in the 2016 period, which was not what happened. But what do you guys think in terms of the chat? We got a nice 760 size audience here. I don't trust crypto. Well, again, Bitcoin is not it's similar, but it's different from crypto. Bitcoin is more like digital gold, whereas the other apps, the other cryptos are more like apps or tokenizations. So that's not what Bitcoin is. Different. Yeah, well, I mean, you can keep not trusting crypto, and you can remain outside of the tremendous success Bitcoin. You have free will, so you can certainly choose to do that. All right, let's see the rest of Trump's plan here.
General's office, independent and physically separated from the departments they oversee, so they do not become the protectors of the deep state. Seventh, I will ask Congress to establish an independent auditing system to continually monitor our intelligence agencies to ensure they are not spying on our citizens or running disinformation campaigns against the American people, or that they are not spying on someone's campaign like they spied on my campaign. Eighth, we will continue the effort launched by the Trump administration to move parts of the sprawling federal bureaucracy to new locations outside the Washington swamp. Just as I moved the Bureau of Land Management to Colorado, as many as 100,000 government positions could be moved out, and I mean immediately, of Washington to places filled with patriots who love America. And they really...
Well, that's pretty wild. Removing bureaucrats from D.C. How about we just get rid of these offices instead of replacing them with... I mean, can you just get rid of these? Like, how about none of these giant bureaucracies versus the patriot bureaucracy? You know what I mean? I don't know. How about just trials and arrests for all of these, like, total goblin people? Like, what about that, right?
Do love America. Ninth, I will work to ban federal bureaucrats from taking jobs at the companies they deal with and that they regulate. So they deal with these companies and they regulate these companies, and then they want to take jobs from these companies. Doesn't work that way. Such a public display cannot go on, and it's taking place all the time, like with Big Pharma. Finally, I will push a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on members of Congress. This is how I will shatter the deep state and restore government that is controlled by the people and for the people. Thank you very much.
Well, that's at least interesting talk and discussion, and it's going to be wild to see if this really does happen. Now, if Trump is serious in these plans and projections, that will most certainly lead to more ASS attempts, right? We've already seen 2. The left has gone absolutely insane, as expected, believing that Trump is a dictator coming to destroy all of the left and put them in prison and have them put to death, which is insane. But that's because if there is a reality to this plan, it is a plan to actually arrest and prosecute or get rid of the bureaucratic liberal elite that really run things, and that they are in terror of actually being prosecuted. Now, whether this will really happen, it remains to be seen. I think we're all very skeptical of whether any person like a Hillary would ever be in trouble, right? They seem to be above the law and untouchable levels of criminality there at that level. But could we see a lot of low-level bureaucrats go to, so a bunch of low-level bureaucrats go to prison. What about these high-level operatives and elites that really need to go to prison, right? When are we going to see that? Maybe that could happen. But, I mean, to me, it sounds like a lot of Q-tard crap, which I don't see really happening. Let's see, what was this? This was another good sign that we saw this year. This is a reminder here about this. Again, these are the positives. We don't know that this will actually happen, but these are the positives.
As your president, I will never allow the creation of a central. Also making another promise to protect Americans from government tyranny. As your president, I will never allow the creation of a central bank digital currency. Do you know about that? And
so there, just Trump reaffirming. This is what he really is. He said many times over this year, and at the Bitcoin conference as well, there will never be a central bank digital currency. Again, all good rhetoric, all good lines. But then this was really bizarre. Have you seen this? The liberal cat ladies are pronouncing a battle plan to poison MAGA with, I don't know what this is. What the hell is aqua tofana? That sounds like either a black girl or something that a black girl puts in her hair. Can anybody tell me what aqua tofana is? I have no idea what this is. But this sounds crazy.
If you've lost faith in humanity, clap your hands. If you've lost faith in humanity, and this is your villain origin story, if you've lost faith in humanity, clap your hands.
All right, that video was dumb. That was not what I thought it was. Woman claims to have 130 IQ and says that she will be celibate and dry because bad men are taking away her abortion power.
Not that my content reaches a lot of men because I have an IQ of 130.
Wait, your content reaches a lot of men because you have an IQ of 130, supposedly? Who really believes she has an IQ of 130, first of all?
But I want the men in this country to know that half the female population, we're dry. We're probably going to stay dry. I'm dry as a desert, baby. And I don't want it to change. Yeah, we're not going to like you anymore. You understand that? Like, it doesn't matter if you take a...
I'm not going to like you anymore.
...away abortion. Like, we'll want to have your babies even less, right? Even if you take away contraception, like, women are really good at celibacy because you guys are actually a threat to us. So we have a lot less to gain from you. So
this is the mental illness of women in the West who've been completely brainwashed and are claiming to... but where's this aqua tofana? Karens are losing their minds. Make aqua tofana great again. Aqua tofana is a 17th century poison. What is this? This is crazy.
Sweetie.
Used in Sicily, and women use this to escape relationships. Karens, who on TikTok and Instagram kicked off the 4B movement, have decided to refuse marriage, children, dates, or relationship with men because of Trump, MAGA, etc. Is this real? I mean, do they you understand that this is murder, right? Like, you're going to go to prison for this.
Am I right? Aqua tofana. If you know, you know.
Look at their eyes. Like, these people are insane, right? Half of the country is basically demoniac. That's the point, right? And if you heard the liturgy and the sermon in the liturgy this last Sunday, it was about the Gadarene demoniac, right? And FDA was explaining that if you go to that area, there's a church that was built based on the tradition of the Gadarene demoniac, who became kind of an emissary of Christ to the people there. And because he was insane, when he gets healed and then tells them about Christ, if you remember in the story, they ask Christ to leave because he is a threat to their way of life and everything that they've known, right? And the church there, according to FDA, is called the Church of the Crazies. Literally, right? Because the point of this whole story ends up being that it's actually the nation and the people in general that are insane. It's Christ and the guy that he's healed, the demoniac who's no longer possessed, but sitting there in his right mind, right? Those are the ones that are healed. And it's actually the rest of the people who are crazy. In other words, these are the crazy people who are akin to the demoniac. They're wanting to not just unalive their youth, their offspring. Look how crazy her eyes are. This looks like an absolutely insane person. Look. So you have all of these left insane women literally talking about the possibility of murder because of Trump. I mean, that's how crazy things are. And they believe themselves to be justified in doing this, right? So if you got a purple-haired wife, you better be checking your drinks. You better be checking out that casserole. You know what I'm saying? You better get a damn poison test. Get a toxicology exam for that casserole tonight. Because this is crazy. People had done lost their damn minds. Anyway, I thought that was pretty wild. Now you might think, well, but this isn't actually real. This is people trolling on TikTok or whatever. But you know what's weird about what we've seen in the last few years? Everybody's so mentally insane and unstable, and there's so much spurgatism out there that people will actually do this. Even if it starts as a joke, they'll start doing this and believing it's real, and they need to do it. Right? You're going to need like a medieval king. You're going to need to have a jester that tastes your food if you got a purple-haired wife. It is a mental disease. They're so wicked and so evil that they believe that they would be justified to murder under the guise of opposing unjust murder.
Shh.
But you know what's interesting is that only one of this crowd of goblins was actually attractive. The so-called 130 IQ woman. This one. But she, even though she might be physically attractive, I mean, her whole persona is vile and repulsive. The rest of these women, I think y'all are good. Like, I mean, I think we're good because I don't think there's any dudes hanging out with these chicks, but there's quite a few here. Here's a dude, right? Oh, I thought he was promoting it. This is an interesting point, though. I've actually been thinking about this. If you eat out, let's say you wear a MAGA hat and you're out eating out. I don't wear a MAGA hat eating out, but let's say you do, right? And one of these purple-haired freaks is back there in the kitchen. I would not eat out wearing a MAGA hat because most of your kitchen workers are going to be, or like your purple-haired freak type, bartender or whatever. Like, you don't know what you're getting. Now, what did Kamala Harris, what did she do with all of her money? Because she got, over $1 billion. And basically, she just, paid Oprah Winfrey and Eminem and Beyonce and all of these goober celebrities that nobody really cares about anymore to come promote her. For example, Oprah got $1 million, reported allegedly, to promote all of this nonsense. So she basically wasted $1 billion plus on establishment media, black queens and kings and we was gods type stuff, and it didn't work. And you had still, probably with illegalities going on, Trump getting the popular vote and almost 100 more electoral college. So none of it worked. But that's because the legacy system is still locked into promoting the legacy system. Now, we're going to get to a little more serious stuff here in a second because we have to look at a couple of agendas that are going to continue no matter who is in the presidency. And there are two key agendas, of course, that the system can never step back from because it has committed 100+ years to these two key elements. And those will help, I think, to give us an idea of not only what the establishment plans to do in the short term, but definitely what the plans are in the long term. And can you guess what those two agendas are? There's two key agendas that can never, the system can morph with different strategies, right? Like a scam, DEMIC, a economic collapse, war, fake flags, right? Those are the short-term strategies that they can throw out. But there's two long-term goal strategies that they can never back away from. They have committed all of their energy and their time and efforts to two key elements that they can never turn away from or change. And those two areas are technocracy and the Malthusian environmental agenda. Those two things they can never alter or change. They must always double down on that because the agenda of the power structure, the real power structure, is precisely centered around Depop, Malthusianism, and the total technocratic control grid. Those all go together. They can never go away. So no matter who is in, they will always be pushing that. And by the way, you're absolutely right to say the Federal Reserve System, that's part of the technocratic system. So the Fed system, because of the rise of digital currencies and whatnot, it will try to push FedCoin. So UBI, FedCoin, credits, all that, and Bitcoin is not that. If you're a low information, slow boy in the audience and you think that Bitcoin is the equivalent of a central bank digital currency, you are wrong. It is the opposite of that. Any Fed coin will be fiat. It will be invented out of thin air. It will have nothing to back it up but the word of the so-called government or the technocratic control structure. And Bitcoin is the opposite of that. It is not fiat. It is not centralized. It is not government controlled. It is decentralized. It is hard asset. It cannot be manipulated. It has never been hacked. Okay? That is not what FedCoin will be. FedCoin is the opposite of that. and will be a complete control system, a complete control structure, a scam, synthetic distraction from something like Bitcoin. And so we're going to look at not so much the technocratic side of things today. We know that very well. We have covered in many, many lectures and talks, particularly my Global Elite book series, where we've lectured through many of the technocratic elites' own books, listing their plans, classics like Between Two Ages by Brzezinski from 1973, classics like H.G. Wells' books on the coming technocracy, Bertrand Russell, classics like Klaus's 2018 Fourth Industrial Revolution. Those are all technocratic statements, but we can't forget this key element of the climate environment agenda and the notion of a planetary emergency on the basis of pop control. Now remember, pop control is not just depop. The technocratic agenda is part of population control. Population control does not just mean get the numbers down, like Gil Bates says. I've got to get those numbers down. It's also day-to-day, action-to-action, moment-to-moment, total information awareness and control, surveillance, tracking, tracing, limiting of resources, limiting of economic exchange control. All of that is intended to go away. Now, the hard part is that erecting and putting into place and selling people on a complete Malthusian technocratic control structure is hard to sell. It's a really hard sell because it is so anti-liberty, so much of an imprisonment, and so unnatural and anti-human that it's very hard to sell this on people. And so they have to use constant, endless propaganda, endless lies, endless gaslighting, endless, just you name it, whether it's mainstream media, whether it's museums. You can't forget that museums are a huge, massive propaganda structure to indoctrinate and teach people that they're harming the environment, right? Zoos are massive environmentalist propaganda outfits, right? The education system, universities, as we said a few minutes ago, absolutely should be defunded and basically done away with. Privatized private schools, much better on the whole. I mean, they're pretty bad still, but we would be way better off without the public indoctrination system. I'm sure you guys have all seen. Remember the pictures of the beautiful young girls who age 18 look like normal females when they go to college, and then it shows them when they graduate in 2022, and they look like they work at Hot Topic, and they look like they've been stamped on by a lesbian Doc Marten boot for 4 years. So this is just churning out demons. It's a demon factory. The education system is a giant demon factory. Anyway, but all of these things must constantly, perpetually churn out that you're the problem on the planet, you're bad, you need to go away, antinatalism, anti-humanism, post-humanism, eat the bugs, humans are a pollution on the environment, and all of that arises from the decisions of the Club of Rome as sort of one of the central think tanks strategizing for many, many decades this specific angle of the establishment. Again, two key angles that can never be reneged or departed from: technocracy and the environmental Malthusian agenda. Those things are always there. This is a really good article put up on Global RESEARCH. Yes, that is a throttled website. I don't agree with everything over there, but for many, many, many years, they've been a great outlet for really good key books and information on the power structure. Now, the idea of declaring a global planetary emergency was actually proposed by the Club of Rome back in 2005 by British, probably a Royal Society guy, David Wasdell. And his idea was coming out of Tavistock Institute. There we go. He wrote a paper called Global Warning that was circulated at the G8 summit in 2005. And the idea here was that we need a global politicization of the climate agenda. Now, this is right around the time, you guys remember, of the release of Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore, which was, as we covered in our live stream a couple nights ago on documentaries and propaganda, one of the biggest examples of documentary propaganda of all time. This had the infamous polar bear floating on an ice cube, and that global warming was killing polar bears, and they can't swim, and their ice cubes are melting because they live on ice cubes. This is just so stupid, because you could find out within 2 seconds whether polar bears can swim and whether the ice caps freeze and melt and freeze and remelt every year. But this is all part of the scam for Depop. Wasdell was at this time invited to the Club of Rome by, at that time, President Prince Hassan bin Talal, to the Club of Rome conference in Norfolk, Virginia, which they had Bilderberg at Chantilly, Virginia, right around that time, maybe 2008, because I remember that was when Endgame came out. They planned at these meetings then to recognize and promote a global state of emergency, declare that carbon is a toxin that is destroying the biosphere. Again, what that actually means is that you are the living carbon destroying the environment. And I know that because it's actually the Club of Rome's document that they put out called First Global Revolution that proposed, famously in the book, you can go look it up, it's public, it's PDF everywhere, First Global Revolution, Club of Rome, proposing that man is the chief pollutant on the planet. The problem isn't pollution in the sense of chemicals. The problem is that man is the polluting chemical. Man himself is the pollutant. And so the environmentalist agenda, which this was not begun in the 90s, I think First Global Revolution came out in the 90s, that was a rewriting of a 1970s text. But the joining of the government and the corporate power structure to the Malthusian agenda happened precisely in the 1960s and 70s. Key figure there is actually Kissinger and Brzezinski. Kissinger was the real mover and shaker here, who under Nixon administration began the process of the government adopting the Malthusian view. Global Report 2000 is one of those key documents during the Kissinger era, whereby the government adopted the idea that all actions must be done and undertaken covert and overt ways and means to curb global population, particularly in the global south. Now, this agenda existed far prior to the Kissinger Global 2000 Report era. This goes back to Thomas Malthus, the Anglican minister, who, by looking at a jar of flies, determined that there would be limited resources of the British people and the British Empire that would lead to a collapse within a generation or two of the entire British Empire due to lack of food and the exploding population. None of that was true. Now, what's fascinating about that is from the time of Malthus up until now, the people in these circles have consistently promoted and pushed a apocalyptic agenda and claim and sensationalism that has never manifested. It has always been based around crises, collapse, a kind of secularized end times philosophy and theology of climate science, which never manifests, but in fact does promote the agenda because the population is stupid. And anybody who has a memory beyond the memory of a goldfish, unfortunately the public has been engineered in many ways through the toxic culture and its diet, etc., and education system to have the memory of a goldfish, to not remember the propaganda and what they claimed a few years prior. I remember articles even in 2011, 12, 13, 14. Do you remember the articles saying that children were being born who would never see snow? Remember those articles? Because the climate was so insane that there will be people born in the UK that will never know what snowfall is. The children being born in 2010, 2011, 20... I remember all this propaganda vividly. And the propaganda has never really changed. You know, since... The first time I remember seeing climate propaganda was in the late 80s, early 90s. It began to be filtered out into educational stuff. I remember even in grade school in California, we were given environmental propaganda. You started seeing it in cartoons, Captain Planet, right? This kind of stuff in the 90s. I remember watching some movie, I don't even know what it was, some 90s movie. And out of nowhere, I think it was an action movie, right? And I remember before the action movie started, I rented a VHS and I put it in. And before the movie started, Tom Coom comes on the screen for a special public announcement about the United Nations and the hole in the ozone. I'm like, what the hell does Tom Coom know about the damn climate and a hole in the ozone layer? Now, if you remember the late 80s and early 90s, this is when they were saying that the hole in the ozone layer within the next 5 to 10 years would be so massive and blowed out that basically everybody was going to get microwaved. We're all going to be basically, you know, pink hot dogs in a couple years from the damn radiation coming through the hole in the ozone. Now, that was all just the most ridiculous bunch of nonsense. Isn't it interesting that they no longer talk about the hole in the ozone layer and all the NASA stuff? It was all NASA pushing that. Remember that? Now, why is that? Why did they go from global warming to climate change? If you understand propaganda, you know why they did that. That's called rebranding. They rebranded the agenda away from global warming to climate change. That's all dreamt up by social engineers and PR people. What does that tell you? That it has absolutely nothing to do with science. It is an agenda of the wealthiest people on the planet to further remember the Good Club? Does anyone remember the Good Club? Now, these are just the sort of outer level, outer ring goobers, right? The billionaire goobers. And their idea is to push. So this was 2009 when this came out. And I don't think these are at the top of the pyramid, but they're up there, right? So this is about 15 years ago, 16 years ago. They're called the Good Club, and their plan is to save the world. The names of this club includes elite billionaires such as Bill Gates, George Soros, Warren Buffett, Oprah Winfrey, David Rockefeller, and Ted Turner. Now, what do all those people have in common? Malthusian, technocratic, Depop. All of them, openly. The environmental crises plaguing the planet ultimately are a problem that relates to overpop. And then it goes on to list the philanthropic organizations, the think tanks, the foundations, the Carnegies, the Vanderbilts, the Rockefellers, and others working together with the United Nations, UNESCO, and all their plans and propaganda to promote Depop. The other terminology that probably comes out of this is the idea of the golden billion. Now, this is just, and even Vladimir Putin has talked about this. Now, what's funny is that you'll notice the mainstream normie websites and news sites of the West, NPR, inside Vladimir Putin's favorite conspiracy of a golden billion. And this is the idea of depopulation and getting it down to a supposed golden billion. They're making fun of this, acting like it doesn't exist. NPR, Washington Post, which is outlet mouthpiece of the CIA, when literally the same mainstream media a few years earlier, 2009, was reporting on the elite billionaires getting together to reduce population and the billionaires who are part of this club. So the article is still public. It's mainstream liberal publication, Guardian, 2009. Putin talks about the same thing 2022, 13 years later, and it's a crazed conspiracy there that doesn't exist, even though the article is still public in liberal mainstream media. This is the level of stupidity, idiocy, and normie slow boy that we have to deal with. Now, to get back to our article here, the Club of Rome in these several decades, and of course Club of Rome is one of the key important outfits that you have to know about in terms of the push for global governance. This goes back to people like Maurice Strong, who was a mouthpiece of the Rockefeller Foundation, to really push a lot of this stuff at a global level. And it's Maurice Strong, as we'll see here in a minute, who is one of the key figures at the Rio summit where this began. So remember, Kissinger in the 70s is in the background as the Rockefeller deep state operative to really push and align the official U.S. government policy with the foundation, think tank, Rockefeller Foundation, etc. Malthusian push. It doesn't immediately become. What else happens? Roe v. Wade, right around the same time. That's also by design, part of this. The Berelson Memo, late 60s, 1969, 70, right around the same time as this. All of this is happening at this time precisely because of these operators that I'm talking about. Particularly Kissinger working as essentially the point man for the Rockefeller Foundation, the real power structure controlling the government, and Brzezinski, who's recruited and brought into this to kind of be, another steering committee person at the level of a Brzezinski. A level of a Kissinger. It's actually Rockefeller and Kissinger that recruit Brzezinski to be part of the Trilateral Commission, running a lot of these same operations. Walsdale was then the advisor to Al Gore, working closely with the Potsdam Institute of Climate Impact and other Club of Rome members such as Hans Joachim Schulenhuber. They together helped develop what's called the tipping points in the climate system propaganda. This concept was incorporated into the planetary boundaries framework under the leadership of Johan Rockström and the Stockholm Resilience Center. A lot of these things are titled Resilience, Resilient Cities, Rockefeller Resilient Cities Foundation, etc. That's all just converting cities and local municipalities over into this kind of global structure. This was done in cooperation with Schellenhuber and the PIK. Planetary boundaries is a framework to describe the limits and impacts of human activities on Earth ecosystems. When left unchecked, it is said to lead to the triggering, cascading tipping points, or what they call large-scale, irreversible environmental changes. In other words, if the population in the U.S. Gets above 400 million, this is a tipping point, a breaking point that will lead to chaos and so forth. And you'll notice that they have various areas of the world and life and society sort of laid out here. There's land-based systems, freshwater systems, biochemical systems, ocean systems, et cetera, and the idea being that human actions in any of these areas can, disastrously affect. And all this is just scientism goobers just making charts and pie charts and putting them up to give them this air of authoritativeness and look at all. And then they have all these goobers and mouthpieces do TED Talks, right? Like this who's this guy? Johan Rockström.
Be forced to live in conditions that we today largely consider uninhabitable.
There you go. Always with crisis. As you guys know, we've lectured through 60, 70 of the elite books, and there's not a single one that I can think of that doesn't in some place begin with and posit the idea of planetary crisis, planetary emergency. And so they really began to hype up in the 2000s, again, with things like Inconvenient Truth and the propaganda that we're discussing here, the notion of apocalyptic collapse as a result of climate issues, as a result of human population. Remember, all of this ultimately has nothing to do with the environment, nothing to do with pollutants, nothing to do with chemicals. I mean, if we really wanted to fix the environment, wouldn't we combat GMOs? No, it's nothing to do with that, because all these people all promote GMOs. They're all pro-GMO. They're all pro-eat the bugs, right? All this horrible, ridiculous nonsense. All of which is a cloak and really grounded in human depop. That's why this is the left death cult. Do you understand? Remember our talk that we did a couple days ago? A lot of people said that's one of the best podcasts we've done. Thank you guys. Appreciate that. I didn't really expect that to be as popular as it was. For my channel, if we get 30K, that's good. Again, we are throttled, but a lot of people really enjoyed the Psychology of the Left podcast that we did here 4 days ago. It's had almost 32,000 views. So if you didn't see that, it turned out really good. Everybody really liked that one. And what we talked about there was the alliance of the left historically with this tendency towards this sort of death ethos, this death cult ideology. Why is that? Well, we saw that leftism is usually, it almost always manifests as a self-negating ideology. It ultimately ends up necessarily tending towards the anti-human, the antinatal, the anti-self, even though it's premised on the primacy of the self, ironically. Because leftism comes out of that whole history of anti-tyranny, anti-hierarchy, anti-authority, anti-truth, and the asserting of the rights of the individual, supposedly, which also can easily flip over into its dialectical opposite of the rights of the collective. We saw how they really go together. It doesn't matter whether you're an atomized individual or a socialist collectivist. All of those negating philosophies, and that's ultimately what they are, end up in the logical position of negating the self, negating your identity, negating yourself, and basically ultimately end up in a death cult. You should really depop yourself for the planet. And isn't that freedom, by the way? And I mean, by the time we get to like Camus, Sartre, existentialists, they literally say that. The ultimate act of freedom is unaliving. Freedom is unaliving oneself. And what better ideology to tie the climate depop agenda to than that? Thus, the climate depop agenda is fundamentally a leftist agenda. But not leftist in the sense of what most people think, say, classical liberal. You wouldn't think of classical liberalism as necessarily connected to the global climate, whatever. But it doesn't even really matter, because ultimately, classical liberalism is rooted in the same atheistic, materialistic liberalism of the socialism that it supposedly opposes. So do you want atheistic socialism or atheistic Ayn Rand monopoly capitalism? It doesn't matter. They're both going to get you to the technocratic, nihilistic, anti-human agenda. Now it says that this Rockstrom guy, who's just one of the mouthpieces, he's just a bureaucratic propaganda mouthpiece. Planetary Boundaries Framework began, presented by Rockstrom himself at the Club of Rome in 2009 in their meeting in Amsterdam. In attendance was one of the royal patrons, the Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands. She was a key, she's also a key member and attendee of Beberg. Another honorary member was, of course, Mikhail Gorbachev, who has forever been involved in the Green New Age agenda since the collapse of the Soviet Union. Other sponsors included Philips Oil and Dutch Royal Shell. So you understand that this whole agenda is 100% Fortune 100, Fortune 500 elite top-down agenda. The Club of Rome report, Bankrupting Nature, was at this time authored by Rockstrom and other members of the Club of Rome, such as Anders Wijkman, who was also part of the Club of Rome's Planetary Emergency Plan in 2019. The Planetary Emergency Partnership included a network of 300 partners all over the world. So you understand that we're just right now looking at one arm, one element of the global elite technocratic power structure, just in terms of the environmentalist network agenda across the world. And this is just one tentacle of this zillion tentacled machine, octopus machine. Securing a new deal for the people, nature, and climate. So they're hearkening to FDR and his socialist agenda at that time, calling it now a planetary New Deal based on the faux made-up crisis of a planetary emergency. These plans have now come to fruition. A few weeks ago, the statement was made of the Climate Governance Commission at the UN. The Climate Governance Commission at the UN? Now, I think this article is a couple of years old, so this might be from 2021. Climate Governance, 2021. Governing our climate future. Who made the UN any at all form of government? Have you noticed that? I mean, did you vote for any UN officials? No, you didn't. Is the UN officially part of the United States government? I don't think it is. There is a building in New York that the Rockefellers donated to be the United Nations building. But the United Nations is not any official governance at all. Yet they have declared themselves an international governance, precisely because they were founded by and funded by the foundations, think tanks, and elite families that we're talking about today. This commission included members of the Club of Rome, Sandrine Dixon de Cleve, Johan Rockström, and others. And these are really just the newer generation mouthpieces that Maurice Strong was in prior generations. I think Maurice Strong's dead now, but these are his replacements. The world faces emergency. That's all they were doing. Catastrophe. Remember when AOC, remember it was like a year or two ago, AOC was like crying and whining and saying that if we don't address the climate, everything will be gone in 8 years. It was nonsense that she was saying. Remember King Charles. Of course, if we don't address the climate, it will lead to a catastrophe. It was just here to a catastrophe. And of course, none of this ever manifests. Leo, everybody's favorite beach boy, all y'all girls out there. Leo Caprio, mega super climate propagandist. I mean, he's the most annoying of everybody. Right? Leonardo DiCaprio literally floating around on giant yachts for the last 20 years, sleeping with every supermodel on the yachts, just orgy yacht. But he's saving us from the climate agenda. Who actually believes this? Who is so stupid as to believe and worship these idiots and these fraud? They're con men. They're frauds. By the way, Leo looks, actually nowadays, he looks like a big old fat, right? Isn't he like a big old fat beer gut dude now? Let's see what he's looking like now. Dude, Leo looks like damn, he looks like Steven Seagal now. I mean, you can't even tell the difference between, remember, everybody used to make fun of Steven Seagal being a big old fat loser. Well, he looks, that looks just like freaking Steven Seagal to me. Dude, look at Leo. Look how pathetic. Look at that. What the hell? Look at that gut, dude. Pitiful, bro. Pitiful. Dude, look at that. What the hell? Leonardo DiCaprio's trying to look like Jack Black. It's pitiful. But, I mean, he's probably one of the top propagandists of all this. Yeah, he's trying to look like Jack Nicholson, right? Massive propaganda as he floats around in a giant yacht, which proves that he doesn't give a shit about the climate, and everybody should figure out this is a giant scam. It's like a global multi-level marketing scam. Due to all these alleged crises, the Climate Emergency Commission recommends bold, concrete actions and a shift towards global governance. The only way to fix the climate agenda is global government, obviously, right? This will be released in conjunction with the upcoming climate summit in Dubai, COP28, November 2023. So I remember when that happened in 2023. I think it did. If I remember Alex covering that. Climate Governance Commission was founded by the Global Challenges Foundation, a Swedish NGO, September 2020. It is led by former Irish President Mary Robinson from the Elders and Club of Madrid. So there's a Club of Rome, Club of Madrid, I guess. Former President of the United Nations, Maria Espinosa, Johan Rockstrom, and members of the Stimson Center and the Rockefeller Foundation. So do you see that the real governance of the world, the real brains that sort of tell everybody and give the policy, it is all of these things that you never hear about and you don't think about. You see these listed here? The SIPO, the CEW, the EarthNA, the WRI Africa, the Stimson Institute, the Villers Institute, the Rockefeller Foundation, Club of Rome, Beberg, you see. These are the things that are really giving the World Economic Forum. Global governance and its planetary emergency is intended then, according to these people, to address and encompass the polycrises, that is, crises everywhere, crises in multiple areas, international conflict, financial instability, global inequality, pandemics. All of this announced at World Economic Forum in 2023. We must combat the polycrises in all areas of life. Now, as everyone here probably knows, these are invented crises. None of these are the real crises. These are made up faux crises for control that deflect from real crises, real events, real problems. And these are the problems that the system itself manufactures, furthers, exploits, and controls. Controlled chaos, intentional crises, Event 201, SPARS, all of that. That tells you about that manufactured event. And whatever manufactured events that we may see in the near future. War, intentional racial problems that will be stoked by design. Economic collapse that will occur due to the massive money printing and unpayable national debt. Hence Bitcoin. Another Coup Part 2, Cyber Polygon, fake flag events, ASS attempts on Donald. All of these and more are in the cards, and all could be used. Another OKC, right? If you remember, back at the time of OKC, the event was perfectly successful in demonizing the patriot. It was all fake, but the rising populism of that time was plastered and toxified by this OKC event. It was a bunch of obviously fake Christian identity, Elohim City, Fed-run stuff, OKC, fake flag, and Bill Clinton sweeps in. And I recall, I think Lord Voldemort mentioned this. I think Bill at one point even said that he owed his success to OKC. Now we're at a situation where we see a new populism, a new discussion of a return to tradition, conservatism, even if a lot of it's fake, even if a lot of it's baloney. The groundswell is speaking in this way, and that's legitimate. That is the perfect setting for OKC 2. How that will be, I don't know. What type of a thing the establishment wants to have, I don't know. But it seems like that is what they would do, you see. And the weak spot in this nation is precisely the race element. They have invested so much in critical race theory, oppression dynamics, DEI, all of that has been so hyped up that that's probably the type of thing that they would go for. Some form of fake, right, RACE based TERROR. But remember, that's the short term. That's what we can expect the establishment to look to do in the short term. Roger Stone's saying, hey, they might just say, we don't accept Trump. We're going to install Kamala. Remember that terminology? One of the Kamala aides was like, we are confident that we will install Kamala inauguration. Install. They're going to make her a dictator. I mean, things are so crazy, nothing is out of the realm of possibility, right? So we could see the the installing of Comrade Kamala, right? Who knows? Nothing is out of the realm of possibility. The positive, though, is that the tricks that they've used don't seem to work on the people right now. So another Russia claim, that's probably not going to work. Could an Iran thing work? That could work, right? Because we've seen Vance and others in this administration really back the narrative of Iran's going to try to assassinate. Who actually believes that it would be Iran doing that? Come on. Who's that dumb? I hope they're not that dumb. Maybe they are. I don't know. But to get back to the long term, remember, we're talking long term that they can never back away from. They can never back away from the technocracy. They can never back away from the environmental agenda. Because a century plus has been committed to these key prongs of the fork. The UN General Assembly needs to declare global emergency at the 2024 summit. Similar statements must be made, and they must be called for. An emergency platform created right now by the UN Secretary General to convene interagency control of planetary emergency reforms. Emergency. All of which is not a real emergency. I mean, it's only an emergency to the elite, right? This platform, consisting of intergovernmental state and non-state actors, would, quote, plan and cooperate urgent actions at all levels of governance, including a global decarbonizing package. This is absolute and total control. Because the carbon is you. That means the DU package. This needs to be a courageous top-down control. Now, wait a minute. I thought it was Trump and conservatives that were fascists that were going to control everyone. Yet they literally call for top-down climate dictatorship to control all levels of government. Top-down control in government. You see that? But Trump is a fascist. It's just so crazy. It's just so out. It's so out in left field, given what the real power structure actually says they want to do. Top-down control in every area of life and government. You hear that? They suggest the creation of a global environmental agency, an international court for the environment. Do you see that? An international court for the environment. This is what they want. In other words, you could be jailed for your carbon footprint. Did you see how crazy this is? This is the real climate fascism. Institutional reform of the global financial system based around carbon credits, in other words. And what does this all center around? Rockefeller philanthropy. Wait a minute, I thought philanthropy was the rich people helping the poor people. Sure, yes, you can go on thinking that. Good job. By 2025, the true magnitude of the multifaceted transformations that are needed will hopefully be well understood. Key actors will know what they need to do, where they need to be, what are the most urgent places to be taking action to transform the change in the world that needs to happen to protect the global commonwealth, the global commons. So they're already just talking like there's a global government. This philosophy is based on Rockström's planetary boundaries framework. There are thus 70 plus partners, including the Club of Rome, World Economic Forum, PIK, WRI, and many, many others that are part of the Investors Collaborative. Oh, here's the monetary scam element. So you put money, this is where the big money comes in to profit off of the fraud and the scam, consisting of the Swiss MAVA Foundation. I've never even heard it. Says there's endless think tanks, foundations, institutes, on and on. It's just never ending of this system. Dutch Foundation Porticus and the United Nations Global Environment Facility. Johan Rockström is a member of the steering committee. See, there's the people that really run things. The Global Commons Alliance, and it leads the alliance component of the Earth Commission. I mean, there's just, you see, like, you can never even keep up with all this. Ultimately, now the guy writing this article says, ultimately this is a recipe for a scientific dictatorship. To quote the 10th commandment on the now demolished Georgia Guidestones, man must be not a cancer on the earth, but must leave room for nature. Leave room for nature. And by that it means less people and more nature. This reminds me also of the Secretariat for the World Order that George Hunt uncovered. This is an old documentary from 1992, I think, 93, 92. And this was a boomer dude who made a pretty ahead of its time documentary when he was looking through what the Rio UN Earth Summit proposed. And this is the one that George Bush was at, Maurice Strong was at, right? It says that the documents at this time said that they wanted to create essentially a global government based around a Secretary of the World Order. The UN would have a General Secretary of the World Order. The Security Council UN would then be led by the Anglo-Saxon Western nation powers, and that they would decree henceforth that the UN Security Council would inform all nations that its sufferance on population has now ended. The United Nations would then have quotas for population reduction on a yearly basis. You understand, this didn't happen. This is what they wanted in 1992. So there was a push via all the entities that we've been listing through the UN at the Rio Earth Summits that Bush Sr. attends. Maurice Strong is the speaker there, to push mandatory planetary quotas of pop reduction. The UN would enforce this through the Security Council on a yearly basis. And you would get credits, or there would be an embargo based on whether you met the quotas. And these embargoes could include limiting of food and medicine or military force. Isn't that wild? This is an actual discussion and documentation from the 1992 United Nations Rio Earth Summit discussing control of population with mandatory military force. And as the author of this paper says, this has now been rebranded as today's carbon footprint reduction. Same thing. It's just rebranded. Oh, it's more than this is beyond Margaret Sanger. Because Margaret Sanger didn't know about, really, as far as I can tell, she didn't know about the technocracy. Right? She just thought about this as reducing undesirable people according to her. This is way beyond that, you say. So I'll play a little bit of this documentary, and it's important to watch because Tristan and I just covered a few nights ago documentaries, and this is a wild one. I'd never seen this. I thought I'd seen all the classics, but this is this boomer dude that had discovered, and his name's George Hunt. He's probably dead by now, but he had discovered what are called the Cobden Papers, the Cobden Club. This is part of the UN Rio Earth Summit 1992 meeting. Apparently there were these papers that detail precisely this mandatory population numbers reduction that they had planned via the United Nations Security Council in 1991-92.
In whose hands? Who is the we in this motto? The hands of the world order. These elitists convened this unsaid meeting in the first place, and for a bad purpose. This video will show strong evidence that the persons running the unsaid Earth Summit are actually setting a net to place the power over the Earth and its peoples into their hands. Brave, bold deeds by the citizenry are needed quickly. Once a government signs their treaties, their citizens are, de jure, in the hands of the world order. There's that motto.
Now, again, the Rio Earth Summit of 1992 that we're talking about here, which is very well known, very famous. Of course, Lord Voldemort's talked about it for decades. The plans that they had ultimately did not immediately succeed. So while there was a lot of propaganda and a lot of talk, they didn't actually get this in 1991-92. This shows us, though, what they wanted according to their official white papers and think tank publications, you see.
Again, in our hands. Whose hands? The same world order families that planned World War I and World War II, that tricked the third world countries to borrow funds and rack up enormous debts.
This is the IMF shock doctrine model.
Much of the money borrowed by Africans and other nations and hid it in Geneva banks. Others.
I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. You guys can go watch this full documentary if you want to. I'm not going to play the whole documentary. It's about 36 minutes, but I'm going to skip around to some different parts here.
Prostitute showing it to a judge down the street or a city councilman who you know in your town. Pray for guidance, hoping that something good might come of your actions. Somebody is going to set the spark off. I really feel that it is not too late. When I served as an official host at a key environment meeting in Denver, Colorado in 1987, I was surprised to see David Rockefeller, Edmund de Rothschild, Secretary of State Baker, then Secretary of the Treasury, Maurice Strong, Waste Company Chairman and EPA Administrator William Ruckelshaus, UN Secretary General in Geneva, McNeil, and various World Bank and IMF officials there. What were the rich elite and bankers doing at an Environment Congress? Listen carefully. I will now attempt to show you how their enactments will work against you. Trust and foundation income is the cornerstone of the world order. They command politicians to do their bidding. and presidents, judges.
Did you hear that? He's talking about the trusts, right? The Annenberg Trust, the foundations, the Rockefeller Foundation, the Carnegie Foundation. That's the real power structure. It's hidden in plain sight, but because people think of these things as philanthropic and innocuous, just entities that are helping people, they're able through that cover, through that humanitarian cover, to engage in all of these subversive and control-related activities. That's key. That's central. Now, what's amazing is that any of us in the tinfoil sphere, we might say, just jokingly, we've all known this for a long time, right? I mean, I learned about think tanks and foundations being the real power structure in 1998, 1999. I've known this for a long time. The public still has not figured this out. Normie conservatives still don't know this, which is amazing. They don't know that it's the Rockefeller Foundation, the Carnegie Endowment, the Brookings Institute, the Rand Corporation. That's the real power structure. They still believe it's the boobs in Washington. Now, the bureaucrat boobs in Washington do have power. They do have an ability to be ensconced and have, but they're really the first layer of the onion of corruption that takes orders from the people this guy's talking about. And the reason we never see change is because no one figures this out. This is step one. These are the people with real power. Now, some college graduate girl, Ling Ling, who gets recruited to write papers for the Carnegie Endowment, she's not the eye of the pyramid. She's just working there as one of the propaganda worker bees of the system, which is the elite families that have created and set up these institutions, these foundations, these trusts, these NGOs that produce the white papers, the think tanks. This is the real power structure. Because they tell the politicians what to do. And the politicians obey. And yes, Middle Eastern foreign nations also have that think tank, right? You know what I'm talking about.
Judges and legislators lick their boots. Their swollen egos and bellies are never satisfied, and their lust for more is insatiable. Now world power and authority is in their grasp. Are we going to give it to them without a confrontation? Or, like they did to the Germans, will they blame the environment holocaust on you and get away with it? What is the World Summit meeting, and who is behind it? The UNCED World Summit, that's UNCED World Summit, is a key event in a series of environment meetings which have occurred since 1972. Maurice Strong, a UN official and an employee of the Rockefeller and Rothschild Trusts and Projects, convened the first Congress in Stockholm, Sweden in 1972. 20 years later, Maurice Strong is the Secretary General and convener of UNCED. In the 1970s and 1980s, numerous conferences created political action decrees, eventually to lead to the UNCED Earth Summit. I attended 2 meetings in Colorado in 1987 and 1991. Friends attended others in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Des Moines. Here is a paper from the Des Moines meeting where Maurice Strong was in charge. Representative Gephardt's telephone number appears on the meeting documents. Here are some phrases from the document of the Secretariat for World Order, which were distributed at the Des Moines UNCED meeting. We are the living sponsors of the great Cecil Rhodes' will of 1877, in which Rhodes devoted his fortune to...
Did you hear that? Maurice Strong, at the behest of the Rockefeller and Rothschild organizations, think tanks and foundations, is mentioning what this future world leader should have as his governing modus operandi. And he says, we are the inheritors of the Cecil Rhodes Trust. This is everything I've been telling you guys, going back to Quigley. This vindicates Quigley.
The extension of British rule throughout the world and colonization by British subjects of the entire continent of Africa, the Holy Land, the Valley of the Euphrates, the islands.
He's just summarizing what was the original Cecil Rhodes plan for the British Empire becoming that world federation of Fabian socialist empire. That's just restating that. It's not literally saying that the British Empire in 1992 is going to take over America, although again, in a sense it is, because the Royal Society and the intelligence apparatus of the Fabian socialist elite in the UK are who set up the OSS and the CIA, quite literally.
Of Cyprus and Candia, the whole of South America, the islands of the Pacific not heretofore possessed by Great Britain, the whole of the Malay archipelago, the seaboard of China and Japan, the ultimate recovery of the United States of America as an integral part of the British Empire. We stand with Lord Milner's credo. We too are British race patriots, and our patriotism is the speech, the traditions, the principles.
That doesn't mean that he really is a British patriot. This is all just gibberish propaganda, but stating that he is in the lineage of the Fabian socialists that he's touting here.
The aspirations of the British race. Do you fear to take this stand at the very last moment when this purpose can be realized? Do you not see that failure now is to be pulled down by the billions of Lilliputians of lesser race who care little or nothing for the Anglo-Saxon system? Copies of this document are distributed to you with this videotape. At the Fourth World Congress meeting in 1987, some other bad remarks about common people were made. I'm going to play them for you now.
At the Denver conference, and perhaps this might be the keynote of what you have heard today and what perhaps you might like in some perhaps amended form to have put forward. At this conference, recognizing the needs to protect our ecological and environmental heritage within the concept of the World Wilderness Congress, World Wildlife Fund, and all other...
There you have Lord Rothschild literally telling you that the World Wildlife Foundation is essentially a front for this. What have I been saying for a long time? Here we have people in the chat lying about what I talk about, like I don't talk about stuff, just consistent liars.
What is involved in the preservation of life on our planet, asked the Prime Minister of Norway, Right Honourable the Gro Harlem Brundtland, as one of the world's leaders of a greatly respected community, to be the promoter of this International Conservation Bank. By her Brundtland report, which has been widely circulated to world leaders, she could follow up this report with the recommendations to promote a second Marshall Plan, the third world debt relief, and finance for a stable development.
In other words, the third world would be put into debt, and that would be a means via IMF shock doctrine control of population control. And there you have one of the Lord Ralph people telling you that. So I'm literally talking about stuff as you sit there and say I don't talk about stuff. This is so retarded. The rest of this documentary, you can go watch it. It's a little edgy. I'm surprised it's still on YouTube, but you can watch it there. But there is a little bit more to this guy's essay that he wrote, which I guess is part of a book he wrote. So if you want to read the rest of this really long article right here from Global R, you can read that. The article is called Declaration of a Planetary Emergency to Begin the Long-Term Reduction of the POP. And this is by a guy named Dr. Jacob Nordengard. And this was posted 2024, but it looks like it was written a little bit earlier, maybe a couple years ago. Anyway, it's a good article, and that's a pretty good documentary going into elements of the Rothschilds being connected to Maurice Strong, which usually don't hear much about that. Now we have some super chats. Gualchrist, $3. Gualchrist? I meant to ask people being brainwashed to vote liberal, thinking that they are making a morally superior choice. Yeah, I think people are brainwashed to think it's a morally superior choice. But I am unsure if democratic policy and action actually achieves what they set forth. No, I mean, it achieves like degeneration, and I mean, it achieves harming children and, you know, that kind of stuff. Of course it does. Sarah from Leo, $1. I wouldn't assume that things that happen are organic. I wouldn't either. We understand that at all these idiot rallies, feds are pushing things to frame us men, correct? Is this an equivalent of a Fed op for white women? I don't know what that means. Junior Gallo, $200. Your recent stream that you did on the revolutionary left was epic. Thank you so much. Well, hey, thank you. You won the super chats for tonight, for sure, because as usual, Junior Gallows is always killing it on these super chats. He basically pays for the entire streams. So you guys can thank Junior Gallo for basically paying for these live streams. And yeah, I'm glad some people really like this talk here. Psychology of the left. The modus operandi. History. Why is this? Tell this dude to shut up. Shut up, Jay. Jay's trying to talk. Thank you guys. Appreciate that. Did we hit 89K? Are we at that banana zone? We're at the banana zone. 89K. Unbelievable. Guys, listen. This is the banana zone. Don't be on the sideline. Okay. Pump. Bitcoin will be pump. Guys, listen. Put the big boy pants on. Oh, yes, guys. Clicking the button. We're going live. Don't be on the sideline. We are in the banana zone. That was my Ivan for tonight. Thank you so much, Junior Gallo. Agent Zero, $3. You should watch Economic Ninja. He has a great YouTube channel and great Bitcoin advice and content. Okay, I'm not familiar with Economic Ninja. I watch a lot of the guys you would probably expect. Well, I watch the Swan Bitcoin channel. I watch Matthew Crowder. I watch Ivan. I watch Becker. I watch a lot of crypto channels, but Ivan's very entertaining. Ado Tolkien, $10. I found the channel a couple weeks ago. My channel? Well, thank you. These are some of the most informative debates and lectures I've ever come across. Word, dog. I like to hear that. Now, we've got some more super chats from our buddy here. But before we get into those super chats,
I'm gonna put you on something.
I gotta tell y'all a little bit about this right here.
I'm gonna put you on something crazy real quick. Most of these Zoomer gym bros are consuming macro-guzzling synthetic dyes and synthetic sweeteners on the daily. They don't even know it. Goofy AF. There's nothing great about that. Do not listen any further unless you are an alpha or sigma male. This is important and there could be consequences. There's a new certified sigma male pre-workout powder for sigmas only. It is guaranteed to empower you to dominate your co-workers, fire your boss, aggressively gamble, or invade a small village. Chad Mode stands out from the crowd by excluding artificial flavors, preservatives, sweeteners, and dyes. We've even avoided so-called natural flavors, which are actually not natural at all, ensuring a clean and effective formula. Experience the pure goodness of Chad Mode, colored with organic blue spirulina extract, organic lemon, cherry, and organic maple crystals. Forget synthetic caffeine made in a sketchy Chinese lab. Embrace the natural power of organic green coffee bean extract, which will get your mind going and pump you up to the max. Chad Mode is made in America with all clean ingredients, the first clean pre-workout of its kind. Why are these people adding synthetic sweeteners to every single pre-workout when there are many studied downsides to consuming nasty fake sucralose? Each dose of Chad Mode contains the kick of a cup and a half of coffee, delivering a surge of energy alongside essential vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and herbal extracts. Chad Mode will allow you to fire your boss and dominate anyone who opposes you. Chad Mode will make you more dominant in your daily life, so proceed with caution. It's as simple as mixing 1 or 2 scoops of our fine powder into water or juice, providing you with a delicious, energizing beverage
I
featuring
want to
a
show off
burst.
something that we're all proud of. I got a browser here. This is Jay Dyer's much vaunted, much sought after Philosophy 101. Now, he just got this page up. We are just testing it out. You guys are some of the first people in the world to see it. I want to say, for my part, it's not Philosophy 101. I think this is a mistitling. I really think of it as like Philosophy Unleashed, because a Philosophy 101 course, they give you kind of some useless information that you can't make sense of. Jay actually lays out over 12 weeks, dozens and dozens of hours put into just the presentation of this, let alone the hundreds and thousands of hours of research that it takes to have a coherent evolution and history of the origins of philosophy, the uses of philosophy, the different ways to look at it over time, and how that has been brought about to what we have today, which is almost an absence of philosophy on the objective logic and reason side, and an overabundance of woke philosophy that is irrational and is made up day by day as people are like, I think we should bring racism back. And then here's a justification. And then it gets wokeified and spread out. And then all of a sudden you have a bunch of communist, socialist ideas where you become the property in action. You need to be able to stand your own ground. It helps to have a foundation in philosophy because it's a method to find truth. When you get down to it, philosophy is there because you love truth enough to go and learn how to find it because it's valuable. So if you're interested in things like that, there is the landing page. We'll link it up in the notes. It is a longer one, so we'll get a shorter URL for this. I'm sure Jay has a link on his page. I just wanted to show it off. Now you know it exists. You can go look for it and see.
All right, I want to remind you guys, too, if you get access to the philosophy course, you do support the stream. If you get access to the chalk.com and use the promo code J40 to get 40% off, JAY40 or JAY44 Life, you get 44% off, and you can unsubscribe at any time. But those are great ways to support the streams and also help you yourself. If you want to learn philosophy, if you want to get fit, you want to get in the gym and have the proper supplementation to aid you in that process, then you definitely want to use chalk.com, CHOQ.com. You can also follow me over here on Rockfin, which is a great free speech-based platform, which is a home away from home, so to speak. It's most of the same content as the website. So if you're a website member, you do get access to all of the archives and everything I've done. Rockfin has about 80% of all of the archives, so not everything I've done. But there's a few unique things over on Rockfin too. But Rockfin is great because for a base fee, you get access to everyone's paid content. And that includes all of our friends such as Sam Tripoli, Richard Grove, Burmis. You've got Eddie Bravo, you've got Tristan, you've got Geopolitics and Empire, you've got Whitney Webb. You've got a lot of our friendly adjacent podcasts also over there on Rockfin. But if you use the Rockfin subscription model, you get access to everybody. So you pay the base fee. I think it's $15-20. You get all of Burmis's paid content, all of Jamie Deluxe, all of Jamie Hanshaw, all of everyone's paid content. So, and you can also super chat there as well. And if you want access to my stuff, just subscribe over here on Rockfin. Or you can still subscribe at jaysanalysis.com, which is always forever going to be my personal homepage and website. And you join with the purchase a membership here. And this one tab here, member content, gives you access to all of the archives. So there's an advantage there as well. And if you want to come over here to the shop, every book is signed. You don't have to request it be signed. That's the advantage of buying from my shop and not from Jeff Bezos, is that every book you get from me is signed. All of them. So you don't have to request it. Don't worry. Yes, it's signed. And remember, you can still get Esoteric Hollywood 1 and 2. Those are classics. Get signed copies there. You can still get these others. Now, to people who ordered the meta-narratives, that one is now a little bit back-ordered, so give me a little bit of time to get those in. I think we are mostly caught up on Red Book orders. There's still maybe 10 that I haven't gotten to yet. So people say, oh, it's been 2 weeks. I understand sometimes the books are a little slow to come to me. For example, when I order, say, a big batch of Red books, I mean, it takes it about 2 weeks to get to me. So I try to keep a lot of stock in the house. But when we go do a live event, I've done a couple live events in the past couple weeks, although I got sick at the Bohemian Grove, so I did sell a few books there, but I wasn't able to really do anything. And then we had our Icon conference and sold quite a few Red books at that. So anytime I do live events, the books go pretty quick. So it's great to see the books still selling. When does Esoteric Hollywood 3 come out? I'm hoping to be done with it in the next month or two. I still have another 100 pages. So I've got 300 pages. So I've still got, I need to write maybe at least another 80 pages. You know what I mean? Maybe 60, 70 pages. If I really buckle down, I could probably do that in a month or a month and a half. But it's not just writing when you do a book. I mean, it's also like formatting. It's also images. And this time around, I'm trying to make a lot of my own images rather than, other things. So it takes, I make all the images and the Photoshop, so that's a whole other thing. Footnotes take forever. That's a whole other thing, doing all the footnoting. So it's not just sitting down and, slapping out 80 or 100 pages. It's also all this other stuff. So it takes a long time. And by the way, this book has taken me longer than all the other books. How hard is it to become an author? I mean, really, it's just writing a lot is the key to being an author. And after writing a lot, building up an audience, doing some podcasts and TV shows, that's when I got the offer to do a book. So let's see. Edo Tolkien said, some of the best debates I've come across. Thanks for the thoughts. I just bought a signed copy. Hopefully it's signed of your book. Yes, everything from the website is signed. Thank you so much. Jordan, $10. In my opinion, when you do finally go on the Joe Rogan Experience, it will be a double-edged sword. You will make specific claims in context, and you'll have clear evidence. It will be very hard for many of the mainstream, normie, liberal viewers to hand-wave you, which I think will lead them to target you. I suppose that's possible. I mean, the more high-profile, the more audience you get, the more opposition you do get. But, I mean, what's... At the end of the day, like the normie stuff, normies are losing, dude. So, not worried about that. Anonymous, $10. Thank you for your incredibly thorough, level-headed videos. I really like the Psychology of the Left talk. Best wishes to you and your family. Yeah, man, we had people coming up at the conference, the Icon conference. They were, man, that Psychology of the Left talk blew my mind. To me, that was just like a standard podcast. I mean, I appreciate everybody enjoying it, but it's like, I mean, aren't all the podcasts pretty good? I mean, I'm sure some of them are better than others, but like, 32,000 people watched this one, and then we had 10,000 on X watch this. That's 42,000 people watched this one. Only 14,000 people watch me and Tristan. I mean, to me, the documentary's propaganda was just as much fun, just as good as the Psychology of the Left. Let's see, what else have we done lately that didn't get many views? A lot of people like the Peterson Dawkins analysis. That was a lot of fun. Here's a 4-hour discussion of Tucker's Demon, Bitcoin, Libertarianism, Filioque, Funko Pope. 4 hours and only 15,000 people watch that. Is that not fun? I don't know. 4 hours of talking about British intelligence and Islam and Tripoli, and that only got 17,000 views. So, like, all you people that are watching, go watch all the other stuff. Only 8,000 people watched the secret agent analysis. By the way, I apologize. We will get back into this. I know the part 2 is late. FDA is here, so he's been staying with us, so that's part of the reason why we had the conference. And so, by the way, the conference talk is up for paid subscribers. So if you're a subscriber to my Rockfin or 2J's analysis, this week's paid content is the lecture at the Icon Conference. So hope you enjoy that. Let's see. We've got another super chat here. Let's see. Sword1, $10. Please like the stream for J-Boy. So there you guys go. $10 super chatter is asking you guys to click like and to share and to, he's demanding that you enjoy me. I demand that you enjoy me. I am enacting, when I become president, I will enact a law. Probably you've heard of these laws. Have you heard of these? Probably you have. I don't know. I will enact a law that mandates that everybody must enjoy Jay Dyer's content. Some of the best, probably the best content on the internet. I don't know if you've seen this content. It's probably the best, really. I will enact an executive order demanding that the entire country enjoy the content of Jay Dyer. Dave the Philippian, $10. Thank you for today's 4, 5, 6 hour broadcast. Yes, I think you could say that since I'm not the Lord Voldemort 4th hour man, you're now getting the 4th hours in 3-hour installments. How long have we gone today? Yes. Oh, wow. I didn't even... This feels like 2 hours, and we've already gone over 3. Anonymous, 346. Do you think it's fair that Germans are always at fault regarding what happens? For example, NWO, technocracy, corporatism. No, I don't think that one race is at fault for all of the evils or the organized evils. So, certainly it's not Germans. Tom Oliver Regenauer calls out similar things to you, and he thinks so. I've never heard of that person. But it's kind of preposterous to think that Germans are the source of evil. Come on. Storm the Cat, $5. Are numbers uncreated energies, or are they created forms? Numbers are created forms. Just like Maximus, St. Maximus says, universals are created things. But they're based on divine ideas in the mind of God that are uncreated. Trumpus Sisyphus, $100. Wow, thank you so much for that big fat super chat. He's trying to rival Junior Gala with that $100 super chat. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. You guys definitely made it worth it tonight. Very generous. A lot of people having fun. Again, amazing, great news. Everybody should be happy, celebrating. Again, we can't celebrate everything because things are still going to be rough. We haven't won every victory, but we are beginning to crack the hold of the establishment on people's minds. But hey, today Bitcoin just keeps every few hours logging in a new all-time high. So we're already over 89K. Congratulations to all of you BTC supporters out there. And to those of you that have done well and that listened in regard to BTC, you should be doing good. Basically everybody who bought before today should be in profit. And that's pretty good news, right? Rudy Booty, $1. Why do normies keep taking L's? Well, because the normie worldview is an L. It is the loser worldview. It is the worldview of idiots. I don't know if that's the simplest way to put it. Guys, if you hit like and share, remember we are throttled here. Remember to follow me on X. We are approaching 100,000 on X. That's going to be another big party. We had our 150K party over here. We had a lot of fun. And I'm only 13,000 away from 100K. So follow me right here. Help me get to 100K so we can have another party, another excuse to enact the party planning committee to give us another party, right?